Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the February 14th, 2017 regular City Council meeting. We have a quorum, so I'll call this meeting to order. And first item is the invocation. We have Reverend A.J. Davis of St. James AME Church to give the invocation. Reverend, there you are, Reverend.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Let us bow. Father, I stretch my hands to thee, no other help I know, and if thou would draw thyself from me, or whither shall I go? Eternal and everlasting Father, the maker, creator, and sustainer of all mankind, the giver of every good and perfect gift, the God who took nothing and made something, the one who spoke creation into being, the one who created man after his own image and after his likeness, and then you breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. We come tonight at this commissioners' meeting to recognize that we are nothing without you, but with you all things are possible. There's nothing outside of your knowing. We come tonight to first let you know that we are not ingrates. We are grateful for everything you have allowed us to be a part of. We thank you for the life and legacy of Colonel Henry T. Titus, the founder of Titusville. Help us to always remember and build upon his vision. We pray, our Lord, that you would make Titusville an oasis of love where all mankind will be celebrated and looked upon as an integral part of the inner workings of this city. As we work together to make Titusville a city to be visited, a city to be modeled after for its vision for its citizens. Bless this meeting, O God, and all those persons who are called upon to lead this city in the direction that you would have it to go. We ask these blessings in the name of our awesome and sovereign God. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business is to approve the minutes for the special city council meeting on January 28th. Do I have any additions, deletions, or corrections? Seeing none, I'll accept the motion to approve.
Motion. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously. Special recognitions and presentations. Mr. City Manager.
Actuary from Foster & Foster are here to review the actuary valuation report for FY ending 9/30/15. And Bogdan Consulting Group will update you on the investment performance for both the general employees, police, and fire pension plans.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Doug Lozen. I'm the actuary, and I will be presenting a recommendation for funding requirements for the police and fire and general employees plans for the upcoming fiscal year. And also here this evening is Dave West with Bogdan. He's the investment consultant to the two pension boards. And I believe we talk about the order, unless you have a preference, that Dave would do his part first regarding the investments, and then I would step up afterwards and give you the update on the funding.
That'll be fine.
Okay.
Sir.
All right, good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here tonight again for an introductory purposes. Dave West, partner, senior consultant with the Bogdan Group. Please be advised that we did a rebranding in January, so we are now named ANCO Consulting. So we'll try not to slip of the tongue after 11 years with the firm, but we put a lot of effort into that rebranding, and so from January forward will be ANCO Consulting. So if we could have the minutes reflect the change there, I would appreciate that. Again, continuing the introduction tonight, what I wanted to do was, I know we have some new council members, so I thought it might be beneficial to give a very executive summary on the roles that we play here. A few ABCs, if you'll indulge me, on the investments of the investment program, and of course, to give you an update on the status as far as the planned fiscal year ended September, and a few minor changes or strategic adjustments that we're making to the portfolio given the changing economic and investment environment that occurred arguably in November. First of all, the Bogdan Group, it's been our pleasure to serve as the investment consultant, and now ANCO as the investment consultant for both plans. I think we go back to 2007 with the general plan and 2009, if memory serves me correctly, with the police and fire plan. It gave us a couple of years to build up some assets prior to the great crash, right? And we were blessed and able to help guide and maneuver both systems through a very trying period. And since then, that time, as Doug will report from the actuary's report, it's been a very, very strong recovery, and the plans are in good shape right now. The ANCO, just again, quick finishing up the introduction. We advise about $65 billion in assets. We've got offices across the country and with several major city locations. Our mainstay, or our grassroots, I should say, is in the Florida public pension system. My partners and I originated in putting our effort forth so that we could make a commitment to the public system. So you'll see us on a lot of local municipal investment systems. If I may, let's talk about the investment program, and again, if you'll indulge me with a few ABCs for the new council members. If you don't do this, if this is not your specialty as a profession, there's a lot of moving parts, and it's a very complicated process and system. If you look at the major sources of contributions paying for the benefit, investments, if they're operating correctly, end up deriving about 65% or making about 65% net of the investment fees to the contribution, or making a contribution to the required funding for the benefit. With a target rate of return established, and usually for most plans they're going to be between 7.5% and 8%, we then derive an investment portfolio that gets us there with the least amount of suspense and hopefully preserves assets during difficult times. But if everything goes to plan, and that has been the case here, even notwithstanding the interruptions that we've had in various bull markets and bear markets, investments generally contribute about 65%. So it's a very, very important asset pool to consider. Just for finishing out the ABCs, the other sources of contribution, of course, are the membership. They contributed a percent of pay. In the case of police and fire, there are state monies received, and then of course the city of Titusville makes up the differences there as a significant contributor to paying for the benefits. So there's multiple sources, but investments historically and going forward are typically the most significant contributor. So if I may, you have two excerpts in front of you. I'm not sure which one's first. I'll talk to the general employees plan, if that's all right. Both plans finished with similar results. The asset allocation and investment program is different for the systems as it has evolved over the years, and managers have moved in, moved out, and we've adjusted asset allocations along the way. But the results have been pretty similar. So if I could just, for efficiency, maybe address the general plan. So for the fiscal year ended September 30, the plan earned 11.71%. And for the 3-year rolling annualized number, if you will, the plan annualized out at 8.4%. The 5-year annualized number is at 12.25%. 7-year at 10.32, and the inception number, which of course includes all of the ebbs and flows, right, the annualized return came in a little bit over 9%. And we're operating against an 8% rate of return assumption. That's what the actuary in to do his calculations. Now, of course, there were periods of time, obviously in 2009, where that rolling average dropped below the averages. But again, fortunately, we've been able to recover much of that period so that now the long-term averages stay intact, and we have actually been able to preserve the long-term number in exceeding the actuarial required rate of return. The other number that we are all very excited about is the number in parentheses there on the top line. As a kind of a secondary benchmarking, if you will, we plug in our client data into a broad universe of public fund systems across the country. Now, these systems some of them are very small. Much smaller than the Titusville systems, and some of them are multi-billion-dollar pension systems, all public systems, all with a variety of actuarial required rate of returns. But we like to know where we rank relative to what other systems are doing. So we're very, very pleased to report that in both cases, and again, just referencing the general plan for efficiency here, the one-year return for the September fiscal year end put the plan in the top 6th percentile in the country. The 3-year return put the plan investments in the top 1st percentile, and 5-year in the top 1st percentile. So the ongoing diligence of the board and the various vendors involved has been exhaustive and has paid off. So we're very, very pleased to report to you, strong absolute results, number one. Number two, strong peer group rankings as we look across other systems across the country. So that's my summary for the fiscal year. Let me just stop there, see if there were any questions on last year's results.
I see none.
Okay. Going forward then, and maybe wrapping up my part of the presentation, we have made some adjustments on the margin. All our investments, we try to be cycle aware of when we approach the investment portfolios. Arguably, up to the election, the biggest driver or theme in the marketplace was the quest for dividend yields. In the low absolute yield environment, stocks that paid dividends garnered much more favor than stocks that actually grew earnings, which historically, as you know, is supposed to be the driver of stock prices. With the election taking place, I would argue there was a tectonic shift in the investment theme, underlying theme of the marketplace, 180 degrees, away from dividend-paying stocks and back towards more cyclically sensitive types of companies that should benefit if economic strength and economic growth continues to excel. Now, the market has interpreted the Trumponomics package, right, which comes in 4 pieces, and I won't go into detail, but obviously the import, export, the tariff or not, that's the wild card out there. We don't know what's going to come of that. But the other 3 legs of the stool, or the table, if you will, starting with infrastructure spending, multi-billions of dollars, right, immediate impact there. But the most significant is the tax reform proposed, and then the arguably second most significant is the deregulation to try and make the business operating environment more friendly for U.S. businesses. So the market has taken this into consideration, and as a result of that, arguably consensus is now that we may be in for the start of a doubleheader, whereas previously, I think it's fair to say market consensus was maybe we were in the 8th inning. So again, a tectonic shift. We had a huge spike in interest rates. Investments went down considerably in total return in the bond portfolio. We had already positioned for this to happen. So our first quarter results actually for the fiscal year are very strong. We were actually up 3% plus with both systems. And that's because of the diversification that we've done in the portfolio, preparing for this day, not knowing when it was going to happen. So the real estate allocation continues to perform very well and arguably should continue to prosper. Those investments should continue to prosper in a strong economic environment. We minimized our allocation to investment-grade bonds, and we made some adjustments to those benchmarks that the managers are managing to, so they would be a little less sensitive to changes in interest rates. And that paid off very, very well in this environment. The changes going forward are a little bit on the margin, trying to address maybe where we are in the cycle. We have obviously had meetings today, and we are taking some profits and some managers that have done exceedingly well in this recent tumultuous period here on the upside, and we're making some changes on the margin to the asset allocation. Again, intermediate, long-term viewpoint intact, but we are making some subtle changes, within the channel markers to address the current environment. So we'll continue to monitor that going forward. So the prospects for this year, with one quarter under our belt, are very good in our opinion. So. Again, off to a good start, and very pleased to report the excellent results for last fiscal year. So let me stop there. Anyone have any questions?
Any questions? I see none. Thank you, sir.
Okay, let me turn it over to get the health of the system.
I've learned my lesson well over the years in this line of work, and also formerly being a high school and college math teacher. Just don't get too far down into the weeds. I start looking for glazed eyes, then I know I've gone too far. I'm going to try and make this pretty brief, give you the overview so you have some walking away bullet points for the two pension plans. And at your discretion, I'll dive into whatever level of detail you want. I understand you've got the reports in front of you, but there's no need unnecessarily to get right down away from the main points unless we need to. I'm not sure how many of you know what an actuary does. I know you have all sorts of different backgrounds. Primarily, our job as an actuary is to put a dollar value on risk. Actuaries do all sorts of different lines of work. Some create the premiums for insurance companies. Others, like me, work with pensions. And it's our job to make sure that when benefits come due, the monies are there. And we do that by way of choosing assumptions. And that's why you have to go through the exercise every year of seeing an actuary, is because in 1 year I'll tell you what the contribution requirement should be, and then I'll come back the next year and tell you whether it should go up a little bit or down a little bit. It almost never stays exactly the same because we're trying to hit about 7 different assumptions. And that's because the benefits are promised by way of ordinance, but then we have to try and project into the future for every single person in the plan until the last check is cashed. And that's a big undertaking. We have to assume salary increases. We have to assume life expectancy. We have to make assumptions for when members will leave the plan, either before retirement or at retirement. Likelihood of disability is another assumption. So every year we make a projection. We report to the pension boards a recommendation, and then we come back the next year and do a little tweaking to it. So the summary for the two pension plans here, the police and fire and the general employees, is they are in very good shape. Their funded status is almost exactly the same between them, right around 86 to 87%. Now, I know this is a relatively new council, and so you might not know some of the history here, but the funded statuses for both plans were substantially lower even 5 years ago. So there's been some very good recovery, both with pension reform here at the city and also with investment returns. So I wouldn't be surprised to see both plans crack the 90% funded status probably within 2 to 3 years. And so the real walk away from all this, I know you don't have necessarily memorized the contribution requirements of both plans, so I can give you something that'll probably stand out in your mind. A big portion of both plans' funding requirements from the city right now is for the unfunded liability. These are things that have happened in the past. It's sort of like, think of them as debt payments, an analogy. You've taken out a number of loans in the past, and the question is, how close are we to paying those off? And the answer is pretty quickly. So I reported to both boards today that over the next 5 years for both plans, there is expected to be a substantial reduction in payment for the unfunded liability. And assuming that from this point forward we more or less meet our assumptions for investment returns, salary increases, turnover, and so on, that in the totality over 5 years, the general employees portion should drop to about half of its current level. So whatever dollar amounts you're currently putting in for the general employees plan, it's expected at 5 years from now, if I'm standing here before you, it should be half of the current level. And for the police and fire plan, it very well could be reduced by 75% from the current level. So I know those are numbers that you try to wrap your head around, but that's the magnitude of the negative impacts that occurred in the last 10 years. The state required a 10-year payoff on those things that occurred. So we're getting close to that point where those occurrences, those events, are expiring from your debt payments and the unfunded liability. So that's part of the explanation of why you're in the high 80% now, probably cracking 90% in 2 to 3 years. And in totality, over the next 5 years, both plans should be coming down substantially in funding requirements. So really, that's about the extent of how far I wanted to get into my first stab at giving you the details of the funding for the two plans. Now, if you have any particular questions, I've got the reports loaded up on my iPads, and I know you have them in front of you. I would be happy to answer any particular questions you might have.
Any questions? Vice Mayor?
And just relative to the plan, so the measurement that's used to determine unfunded liability, if I'm correct, that had changed in scope maybe 2 years ago, somewhere about? Is that through the state of Florida, the way that you could count, the way that you counted against unfunded liability, I thought changed in statute, which put us in a better position. Are there any subjects to changes in that measurement of how you construct what is unfunded?
I think what you might be getting at is these types of plans used to fund anything that occurred that hit the unfunded liability over 30 years. And the state, almost 10 years ago, said we don't like 30, we like 10. If you get a loss or a gain, and at that point there were a lot of losses occurring around the state, and the state said, these 30-year payoffs, we don't like them, we'd rather have 10. And so we recommended that to all of our clients. We have about half of the pension plans in the state. And so it was painful at that time. That took a lot of extra funding to pay off the investment losses that occurred in the early 2000s. But now they're being paid off because of the 10-year requirement. We're getting close to the end of that 10. And that's one of the reasons why the funded status has shot up so much in the last couple of years. I think that is probably what you're referring to.
Yeah, I think what I'm looking for is that, is there any, would you foresee anything on the horizon that would shift that measurement or allow expansion or decline to that?
No, there's been, that was from the Division of Retirement Actuaries. That was not a law. That was sort of an administrative decision. No, I have not seen anything, no rumblings saying we want even a shorter period. I think everybody's pretty happy with the 10 years.
All right, thank you.
Member Nelson?
So basically, once we have that 90%, then the contribution that goes in from the city or from the city employees would be reduced? Am I understanding that correctly?
No, the member contributions are set by ordinance. So that stays fixed unless
Okay.
you, this body here, changes it.
But the amount needed would be less.
Right, the
Right.
amount needed would be less if you get favorable experience, and as the unfunded expires,
Correct.
then the city would enjoy the reduced funding requirement if they wanted to. So that's one of the points to consider, and this has been going on around the state, is the discussion that as these plans are getting in better shape and as the funding requirements drop, if the cities can afford, maybe continue to fund a little bit higher than just the minimum for a few more years and build up a little reserve. So if some future event occurs, say on the investment side, there's extra monies that have been there getting invested all along that you could use.
So have a little padding.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, I think we got it.
Any other questions? I want to say to you that it's very good news that you've given us tonight. I and the former mayor, Mayor Tully, who's sitting in the back, went through those lean periods with you. They weren't much fun, and it wasn't very pretty. We were in a difficult situation and didn't see the light of day for quite a few years. And as with the rest of the country, most of the pensions were in deep trouble, and some of them even were close to or went into bankruptcy. And everybody didn't realize how critical that was, not only to the general economy, but to these pensions. So we like the good news. Keep it coming.
I'm very happy because I was the actuary with the Grim Reaper for many years. So I can take back the hood and see the light of day again.
Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Before we do the next on the agenda, Clerk, would you read the instructions for the public to address council? Should they want to?
Yes, sir. Individuals wishing to speak on public and non-public hearing agenda items must complete a sign-up card and present it to the clerk prior to the item being introduced. Those wishing to speak on quasi-judicial public hearings must complete a sign-up card and sign the oath. Individuals wishing to speak on non-agenda items may do so under petitions and requests. This opportunity is offered twice in the meeting, and individuals may speak at either the first or second petitions and requests, but not both. No sign-up card is required. Sign-up and oath cards are located on the table in the back of the chamber. Citizens shall not comment on any issue more than once during the meeting. All comments except petitions and requests must address the pending issues, and citizens will be given 3 minutes to speak on all agenda items.
Thank you, City Clerk. Item B is North Brevard Economic Development Zone presentation. Mr. City Manager?
Sir, if I could have you acknowledge the previous presentation.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. I need a motion to acknowledge the presentation that was just given.
So moved.
Thank you. I have a second, please.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say yes. Yes. Any opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously. Mr. City Manager.
Yes, sir. Agenda item 5B, Space Coast Fab Lab, owned and operated by Project Based Learning Incorporated, is in negotiations with the North Brevard Economic Development Zone to expand their market space dedicated to helping individuals grow through knowledge and skills to North Brevard. Currently, Space Coast Fab Lab has grown into a 20,000 square foot space in Palm Bay and has served over 4,000 students, hobbyists, and entrepreneurs. The expansion would be into a 10,000 square foot industrial building on Capron Road. Proposed funding for the project would come from the North Brevard Economic Development Zone to be combined with other partners to establish an expansion operation in Titusville. Revenues from the courses, partnerships, arrangements, and sponsors would offset the operating costs. On 13 October 2014, the City of Titus entered into an interlocal agreement with the North Brevard Economic Development Zone to provide funding of $50,000 for the economic development project in the Space Coast Commerce Park. Section 12 stated that all funds would be reimbursed in full not later than the end of the first quarter of 2017, on or before 31 March 2017. If the funds were not used, funds were to be returned. The funds were not used and are being asked to be granted to the Space Coast Fab Lab project. This project was sourced from the North Brevard Economic Development Zone tax increment funds in 2015. If the council approves advisability, the agreement between the city and the North Brevard Economic Development Zone will be included on a future agenda for your approval. And I think we have a presentation from the Space Coast Fab Lab, and I think former Mayor Tolley will open.
Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
I can't tell you what a pleasure it is to be part of this presentation, because the first time I visited Fab Lab in Palm Bay, I became immediately convinced that we needed a facility like this in Titusville. And so when Troy Post asked me to be part of this presentation, as much as I like watching your meetings from home, I couldn't resist the opportunity to speak my mind on this occasion. I think that such a facility in Titusville will fulfill three very important needs in our city. The first one is a place for our young people. And I understand that this was something that came out of the citizens' conversation that you all held last month. But I would tell you that this is more than just a place for our young people. What Mr. Beavers has put together is actually a multi-generational learning facility. And the idea of having youngsters and oldsters and everybody in between all building projects and making things and learning together is just an incredible place. I know the mayor's been down there to see it. I hope that the other four of you at least got a chance to look at the videos that I sent you. It's an incredible place. The second need it fulfills, of course, is workforce development. We've been very fortunate in Titusville that we've attracted some new industry and some new jobs. But now the challenge is going to be keeping those jobs here and making sure that new industry and more industry to come has an appropriate workforce to fill the needs of those industries. And some of the things that Mr. Beavers is going to tell you about, and I'm going to let him do all the details. My purpose is just introduction and overview, but workforce development is just key to our success in the future. And the third thing is that there's a certain wow factor that goes with this. We've been very fortunate in the Space Coast that we've always had Kennedy Space Center as kind of a wow factor for all of us. But the only people who really got to participate in it were the employees out there. We're now talking about a wow factor for everyone in the city. And that should not be underestimated, because techies, and I used to be one, like to hang around techies, and techies like to have technical environments, and we have great sports programs for our kids, but not every kid is an athlete. And so I believe we really need something like this to attract technical people who want to be here because it's such a cool technical place to be, not necessarily because we're divvying up large amounts of money for expensive incentives. And that's not to say incentives don't have a place, but wouldn't it be great if we could attract people because they really want to be here? One of the things Mr. Beavers is going to tell you about is he has been attracted to Titusville because of the cooperation he sees up here. And so this particular proposal is not just about Fab Lab. There are at least 3 other organizations that are key players in this, and he's already working with them. There's the co-launch facility that GTR has put on. There's another entity called Computers Advancing Education, and if you've not gone to see that one yet, the cafeteria at the old Whispering Hills is basically a computer factory where they revamp computers to give them for educational purposes. We've already had discussions with them. And finally, the Space Museum has gotten into educational mode, and they're going to take over the North Area Superintendent's old office and build something in there called Steam Space, and they're already cooperating with Fab Lab. So it all kinds of fits together. And so before I sit down, Stephen Covey used to say, begin with the end in mind, so I'd like to leave you with a vision. And the vision is a big, impressive new building with all 4 of those entities under one roof. Now, that's not going to happen tomorrow, obviously, but this is one of the initial steps to help make it happen. Some would say that this is opportunity knocking on our door. I disagree. I think this is opportunity hitting us over the head with a baseball bat. And I would hope that all of you would support it with all the enthusiasm that those of us who have seen the place already have, and not only with enthusiasm, but some dollars, because it does take some money. So thank you for your time, and I'm going to now introduce Mr. David Beavers, who is the gentleman who put this all together down at Palm Bay, and I think the details he's going to give to you, you'll find amazing.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir. Your name for the record, sir.
David Beavers, project-based learning. Currently out of Palm Bay, we will be opening, our grand opening is scheduled currently is the 18th of March here in Titusville as well. The Fab Lab started as a makerspace. I'm not sure if everyone's familiar with that concept. It came out of MIT, and we are affiliated. We are in association with the MIT Bits and Atoms Center. We follow their charter, and that is why we're allowed to use the Fab Lab logo. And that was created from their most popular course ever offered up there, and is still one of their most popular courses in how to build virtually anything. The idea behind it was to enhance creativity and a mindset. And if a student wanted to build something, whatever they could think, whether it was a drone or a submersible or literally anything in between, they would have the tools to make it. Ours started with a much less grand goal. We wanted to support senior design projects for a local university in Melbourne, and we did. And to this day, going on 3 years later, every winning senior design project at that university has been worked on in the Space Coast Fab Lab. It gradually expanded. It expanded to the K-12 program. Today, we see between 300 and 900 K-12 students through Brevard schools, home schools, and private schools every month on field trips. They come in on buses. They do 3D printing. They do laser cutting. They do graphic design. They do non-Newtonian fluids, STEM and STEAM projects. So our days are pretty full. What this does, and I'd like to really further the 3 points he mentioned: youth, certainly the K through 12 market, and we're actually we're working on now doing on-site. We did our first on-site camps at the schools with a charter school in Palm Bay, and we're talking with the school board now of doing one central, one north, and one south, where they have a Fab Lab camp for after school. And when you think of the K-12, one of the things that we have grown into are certification in classes that we currently offer. And when you think of certification, you'll think of a SolidWorks certification or a Space Tech type certification for employment. And yes, we offer those, but we also offer high school students. And one of the things that we'll be doing here are communications, and it's a certificate from Southwest Airlines. It's not about airline flight. It's simply teaching these youngsters the proper use, basic Microsoft Office, Excel, communication, email etiquette at a high school level. So it is a broad spectrum. We do that. We certainly do, and we'll be offering for the first time accredited degrees through a Fab Lab as an academic support center for a vocational school. So one of the things that many people see, and it's wonderful that the companies are creating new jobs on engineers, but every new engineering job creates about 7 tech jobs. And one of the things Brevard County in total is very short on is workforce development at that technical level. So we'll be offering that. And it's a broad spectrum. What they come in and experience is a group. As an example, Thursday night, and you're all invited, we do a humanoid robot build down at Fab Lab. And what that is they're 3D printing a robot. It's controlled electronically. It has vision. Its eyes are actually cameras, so it sees back and forth, and you can sign to it or talk. And there's a million different ways, and it's done nationwide. But the group that does that is composed of local engineers from DoD companies, high school students, college students. The young man that runs the optical recognition and the programming on that is, I want to say, 14 years old. He's a homeschooler. And what they gain in working with that type of diversity of backgrounds is, in that one robot, you have additive manufacturing, you have electronics, you have coding, you have hardware, you have software. And they find their areas of excitement. We had the director of the NSA down to speak on I-Corps, and we do a lot of entrepreneurial programs. And his comment was, I've never seen undergraduates this excited about research. It's because we don't steer them. There's enough there. They find their areas of interest. The young men and women that did the prosthetic arm that won the awards last year for the Northrop Showcase, they came to a 3D printer camp 2 years ago to build 3D printers. Then they got into rockets, and then they found that prosthetic arms for juveniles and the expense with the insurance was a real need. Now, they did it. They competed against 16 universities. They won. They swept the showcase last year. It's not a business that they created. They open sourced it and gave it away. But they are all working with the local engineering companies that work in that same fab lab. So it does create the associations and a future for all of these youngsters because they're working side by side with their future employees. I would very much like to bring that in a large way to Titusville. And lastly, to the wow factor, I think it's time, and now with support and with the community. You mentioned the other people. This morning I was out with the Space Museum, and we were talking about doing a CubeSat program. And a CubeSat is where high school students design, build, and launch their own satellites. It goes on a payload. They compete with high schools all over the country. I don't know why they're not competing with the high schools here on the Space Coast, but they will be, and they'll be building them over at the Space Museum. They have one room dedicated, and they have another room that's going to be a mini makerspace. They're going to coordinate with us on our field trips. Computers and Education, in conjunction with the Space Museum, is now going to be doing the classes that we did down in Palm Bay. And what we did was lower income families, $25,000, $30,000 and below, who've never had a computer in their home. But the youngsters come in for 4 classes. The caveat is they have to bring a parent. And they come in and they learn about the computers. Microsoft gives us the Office software. They get training on it. They get SolidWorks. So the computers are not bad computers. They're capable of running the graphics, 6 gigabytes of RAM. But more importantly, at the end of that class, unbeknownst to them, they take the computer home and they get a year of Bright House internet. So for the first time, they're able to do their homework from home, and the parent sees the value of that. That's a very small thing. We do it because those come literally out of the garbage, and we rebuild them as fast as we can. We did maybe 100, 150 of those last year. Freebie's done over 10,000. Well, all he needed was the instructors. We've coordinated, and now with the use of a Brevard building here in town, he's providing the computers. The Space Museum is providing the support and the structure and the organization, and we're providing the instructors. And these are the same instructors that teach at the collegiate level on SolidWorks. I mean, these are literally the GSAs and teaching assistants, both from Eastern State and from FIT, that have volunteered to drive up here and teach these classes. So it's quality education. And these kids are getting something that they've never had access before. And these are the types of things that I believe are a wow factor. But the real wow factor, in my opinion, are the calls I get. And as an example, one of the DoD companies, and we've sent 6 students to him out of the Fab Lab environment. And he called back and said, this is amazing. These are like 5, they are so well experienced. It's like a 5-year. And I said, well, of course, because they've worked across discipline, they've worked with the other people. But of those 6, you have 2 national award winners. You have the first undergraduate to be completely sponsored into Stanford from them. You have one that went from an L1, level 1, to an S1 with 22 direct reports under her in less than a year. And they're not just getting jobs, they're excelling at the jobs. And it's because they can work across those barriers, and they can work with people of different skill sets and different ages. So it's not limited to a 10-year-old group or a 40-year-old group. One of the things that we have been absolutely blessed with down there are the number of retired engineers that come in and mentor these students. And those that teach are learning, and we've actually had entrepreneurial businesses spring up as partners on automation systems for access to lasers. And now they've contracted. It's very interesting because they came in, they're mentoring the students. They designed a product to protect the lasers in operation and the students. One of the DoD companies said, wow, we can use this in our machine shops. We need these from here to California. They've got a new company. The kids are better off, and the DoD has a wonderful source of new employees and an apparatus that's useful in all of their shops. So it's very synergistic in that sense. But I think there is a big wow factor. For those of you who've not been through, I would encourage you to come visit us. But you won't have to wait that long because we'll have one that's as nice and as busy and with the cooperation, and that's what I'm really excited about, with the Space Museum, with computers, with co-launch. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I think we'll have that wow factor. And with that, I will let Troy handle and share with you what we've done.
Troy, if you could wait 1 minute.
Oh, yes, sir. I'm sorry if there's questions.
Not a question. It's just I want to tell everybody our experience, or my experience with you. A few weeks ago, I was asked to go down and see Mr. Bieber's facility, and I did that, and I drove down there, and I thought, well, it'll probably take about 45 minutes to walk through and so forth. And I thought it was, I've seen a lot of incubators and that sort of thing. It was totally different. It was an hour and a half, and I got that wow factor. It wasn't the facilities, though, even though you have a lot down there. It was you, sir, what you did and how you did it. Most of what happened down there, Mr. Biebers did of his own resources with very little outside help and his own energy going out and getting equipment and computers that nobody wanted anymore or upgrading or something and used them to teach students. And more than that, he's teaching them how to think and how to solve problems and to stick with it, basically, and get the job done, so to speak. And I have just the utmost appreciation of what you've done. And I will now let Mr. Fox speak about it. You're a hero, sir, for what you do in teaching those kids. And this is called, I will say one more thing. I was in economic development for a number of years, and this is called economic development gardening, or it used to be, where you are planting seeds in our youth and other people, not all of them are youth, that will grow into a strong economy for us in the future. So I'm excited about you being here, sir.
Well, thank you very, very much. And the only thing I would add to that is that facility runs on 3,000 plus hours a month of volunteer. So there's a lot of people that I am really a small cog in what a lot of people are doing. It takes a number of people, which is why I'm excited about these other entities, because they see the real purpose here. And that's what we need, is people that see the seeds. But thank you.
I appreciate your modesty, sir, but you had the vision and followed it through. So thank you.
Well, I'm Troy Post, and I'm the executive director for Embeds. And, of course, they have very eloquently stated the case for why we should support Fab Lab. I'm really here to tell you just real quickly that the Embeds board did receive the proposal that I've just distributed to you back in January and December. We went through that at our meeting just recently. We did approve an assistance package that would be $125,000, with the understanding that Project-Based Learning, the group behind this, would seek out some other partners, including businesses, local businesses, that would be able to help defray some of the costs. So part of coming tonight is part of that plan in trying to see if the city will consider to be a financial partner in this with a one-time only grant totaling $50,000. I also wanted to give a suggestion, if I could, to the city on where they could find the source of that $50,000. And as Scott mentioned in his opening comments, about 3 years ago, I know Mr. Johnson, the mayor, was on the council at the time. He probably recalls this. But we had a need with the economic development zone to go out into the Commerce Park that the county owns. It's here in Titusville, and try to prepare one of the sites for future industry. And we came to the council seeking some monies that would help accelerate some of those plans. This was in the early years of the embeds before we got into a more stable revenue stream. The council was very supportive of that. They provided to us $50,000 on essentially an interest-free loan type of vehicle, and we were able to use that to do some of the preliminary studies and plans for one of the lots out there, which incidentally became the future home of Embraer, because when Embraer and that project started to materialize, we were already pretty far down the road with doing the site inquiry, the environmental studies, the geotechnical studies for that particular lot. So it really did help us win that project, I think, by having that assistance. But because it was essentially an interest-free loan, there is a due date, and that due date is now upon us. So we will be returning the $50,000 to the city over the next few weeks from the embeds. So our suggestion would be that you consider, since those are really economic development funds, that you would just turn around and perhaps invest them in this particular project. We do think that, as has been mentioned already, from a workforce development standpoint, it's very good to do a project like this. We think it'll also enhance some of the entrepreneurial development stuff that we're working on. You've heard the mention of co-launch, and that's our co-work space that the city's been supportive of. We also think it'll help engage youth, and you've heard comments about that as well. And all of those are important goals to work for in economic development. So I think that Mr. Beavers and also the former mayor, who's very well versed now on this project, will be willing to take whatever questions you've got for any one of us. So thank you.
Member Diesel?
Really, I'd like you to come up front because I'm sure there's a few. I know I have a couple. Having been a longtime science teacher myself at Titusville High School, and now being the assistant principal that oversees and evaluates the science department as well as the CTE department, I can only say how excited I am to hear all of this. This is extremely exciting. And so the next step would be, do you guys have, does your group have any collaboration with BPS, Brevard Public Schools in any way? Is there any interaction with them on this?
Brevard Independent Schools, currently we run between 300 and 900. We've worked a little bit, and I would defer you to one of the board members who's contacted us to develop it. And I'm sorry, I've known him for years, but it's Matt.
Susan.
Yes, sir. And he could tell you more about it. He's toured it, and he's offered, as a matter of fact, to help us expand into a central location as well as north and south. But we see about 300 to 900. We also, one of the things we do with Brevard Schools, we made the offer last year, as you understand, a teacher's day and schedule. For those that do have 3D printers, last year, Northrop Grumman sponsored 6 of the little miniature labs into the school. They sent them to Fab Lab for training on those units, and as well as those in any other school in Brevard County, we fix or repair their 3D printers at no cost to them, because otherwise they'll get pushed to the corner to maintain the schedule. So we have a lot of connections with Brevard schools. I say that, and we're open to them, but not officially. We have no funding from them or no type of formal. We've made the space available to them. We do some evening, we do some after-school programs. We've done some camps at particularly Pineapple Cove, which is a charter school, a new one down in Palm Bay, where we send our people in because they're very young, transportation. So we send them in, and it's an every Friday program we did for a number of weeks. It went exceptionally well. And they're going to try and expand that, but no formal arrangements.
Okay, that doesn't change my excitement for the program. It just may revision it for me, and that would be, it sounds like there's extracurricular time there, after school time, perhaps, and we have a wonderful robotics program and team at Titusville High School. I'm sure that they could be involved with you all, and I can only imagine the excitement of a science class or a robotics program going to your site.
As an example, Palm Bay High School has a VEX team. We have the field and about 8 of the complete units. They were on loan. They just came back last week, but they were on loan to the school, and we do those programs. We like to have that type of equipment because one of the things in Brevard County that many people, it doesn't come to mind, is that there are over 4,000 registered homeschoolers. And one of the really neat aspects of a Fab Lab, for a homeschool parent, that is really engaged. One of the things they do not have is socialization or any type of a group place. And what this does is it allows them to work with students their own age, with people in careers, and just the community at large. So the socialization side that arguably is very missing in most homeschool can be had in that type of a facility. So we like to have those available for those groups as well.
I think what you could add to education, what you could add, I'll speak personally to Titusville High School, is beyond words. And I'm excited to hear more. And I know there's some funding issues and perhaps some facility and logistical issues. I get that. I'm addressing this side of it, and I think that that's awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. I have some questions, just help me out. So one is the time from concept to building and then growth. Are you about 2 years or 3 years into this?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Originally, we were in a little 1,200 square foot space in Panther Plaza outside of FIT. I took it over from the business college. Dr. Walton and Dr. Benjamin had a little incubator, and they decided they were going to call that quits. So I leased that with the intention of leasing a restaurant downstairs. Building permits about a year later. We had the space, but could not build in it for a number of city restrictions. So we moved it to a slightly larger place. And then iBox Printers, which was a Kickstarter, had raised some dollars about a year ago, about $500,000, and started a facility. And a year later, they were going bankrupt. So they had a ad in the paper. We went over to look at some of the lasers. I talked with him. Long story short, they didn't go bankrupt. The creditors got paid. I assumed the laser cutters and the lease space, and then expanded that lease space to what it is now, slowly with the new programs, to about 19,000, just under 20,000 square feet. That has been a financial burden. We have raised to date almost $5,000. We've been in the current location a little over a year, and that's the only outside funds we've had other than physical property donations. We can get a lot of computers, I found, for about what they're paying $40 a pallet to remove. But as far as any real support, I was very pleased with how rapidly y'all looked and saw it and said, this is amazing, and how fast this has gone. But we've been in development going on almost 3 years, about 2 years formally. I think October 1st of 14 was our actual formation as a nonprofit. And here we'll go much faster. Our intentions, as I said earlier, we have a space which was kindly donated for the first year, and we have a 3-year lease on that space. And it is, I was up there last weekend, we're moving ahead, and we plan on having our opening on the 18th.
Yeah. And I'm asking, and I could use it to alleviate some concerns. Right? So just going through the articles, there's a thing of dissolution or reinstatement, or not dissolution, but reinstatement. Going, okay. So then if you took funding less tax dollars, where are you at year over year? Are you at 5,000? Excluding donations for capital property. Right.
Oh,
so
yeah, outside,
where are you at less taxes?
Total donations in is about $5,000, unless you count, and you would have to on a tax side, because my daughter as well is one of the larger contributors. So if you take out of our share, there is a substantial amount of contributions, because $18,000 a month, you're looking at about a $200,000 facility cost that is shared with my daughter, myself, and one other individual.
Okay. And then from a sustainability standpoint, where do you have to be? And here's where I'm going, is that at the end of do I want brain trust and a place to go? Absolutely. One of the challenges is that,
but only if it's sustainable. No, I
in
understand.
3 years, where are we at? And if 3 years were no further, then this is a challenge, right?
The 2 years we've spent in Palm Bay, and continue, have been a real education as to sustainability. One of the key things that I've done, I did not want a paid membership, and that's the way most tech shops, Fab Labs, but many of the students that we have, some of the students that I mentioned that did so well, literally were at school if it was $5, they could not have participated. So I've tried to do this without the students costing anything and still give them an opportunity. The big revenue model, what we're looking for, believe it or not, are the degrees, the vocational degrees. And you say, well, that's neat, but how do you earn a living on that if you're giving it away free to the students? The Department of Education has said if we provide an academic support center for an online college, they can pay us a fee for the facilities and for the mentoring as a facilities fee. That's not a recruitment fee for a domestic college. We've worked it so that these kids coming out that have made A's through high school in this type of an area, which means it's over, around, or through thinking to begin with. Our first degree is going to be in cybersecurity. It's cost $17,000. They get Pell Grants. The Workforce Commission, on a case-by-case, has individual grants for the rest of the school. Yet they still can't afford it because at that level you have to be working. So I called 2 of the larger DoD companies and said, this is what I need. I need 20-hour interns, work to hire, from day one as a student. These are vocational degrees, no 19th century French poetry, but cybersecurity, these will be your superstars in 5 years. This is the experience they're coming up in. This is the mindset. And they have agreed to fund these students hire them as long as they're performing. The college pays us $1,000 per student, which offsets the overhead. Now, $18,000 a month is too high, and we will not, I've already told them, we're moving. We were offered through the school board some space down there to do it, or reduce the footprint down there to something more reasonable and in line with that. But between that, the SolidWorks courses, we do classes, we do workshops, summer camps. We now have 2 summer camps scheduled in Titusville that have already been booked out by schools where they'll take the entire summer camp. We started doing that program. I did them for FIT. It was the most profitable summer camp that they'd had to date. It was come in, we had 54 students from as far away as Japan and France come in, build a 3D printer, and take it home with them. We've done it every year since. We also do robotics and fabrication summer camps, which is really what helps fund the most of the year, because each of those camps is $50,000, $80,000 in revenues. So we have some revenue models as well in there. So at this level, what we're looking at, even with paid employees, and we looked at 2 paid employees, but we also work with Bridges, and we have paid employees, but the county pays them as part of a training program. So we'll have about 22 employees here that are training and learning everything from laser fabrication to additive to CNC work. But our revenues will come from the colleges. I like to say we have everything in the world for a student but a cash register.
Right.
So we're going to get it from the back end for that sustainability.
And thank you for that, and it's
Sure.
thorough. And then why, and Troy, this may be up your alley, but alleviating that why the location? And the reason I say that is I take this place better served in maybe one of our target areas where people can walk, because when I think of there's going to be a large population for skill development, this would be absolutely life-changing, but they can't get access to it because mom's working 2 jobs or whatever. And when I look at it in the Commerce Park, I think it fits because accessibility from folks coming out of NASA, maybe it's on the way, so it's a little bit easier. That's easy to find. But when I think of if I have some folks, off South Street and Daly Line area, older neighborhood, walkable community, why couldn't we put it there?
The subject property is not in the Commerce Park. It is actually in the interior of Titusville, is the way I would characterize it, on Capron. Okay. So it's within, I think, a reasonable walk from South Street, maybe a mile. But a lot of it has to do with the suitability of the building. Also, the building owner is very much a believer in the concept and has been willing to provide very favorable rent structure and terms for this. That's another driver that dictates this. This, like the co-launch thing, over the next few years, they're experiments essentially. And if they work the way that we think that they can work, it is possible that they may coalesce into maybe one particular center, maybe one other location where you may be able to reach more of the kinds of individuals that you may be trying to target. So I think that the sky's the limit. I mean, if this thing really does work the way we think, then we can have, the co-workspace, we can have a fab lab, we may have more of a true business incubator in the future. We'll have all these different elements working together. It's interesting, Edie McCall and I today had a conversation with a company that's coming in from Orlando. And they're looking for space because they've heard about some of the things that we're working on, and they kind of bought into some of the buzz. And they are very interested in the hub zone designation, which affects some of the target areas I think that you're interested in. Mm-hmm. And they happened to learn that the co-work space is in the hub zone area. So they went down and made an application today. So that's a very good success story for us to have. So, the word's starting to get out. We want to kind of feed that. And this is a good way, I think, to further our reputation in this kind of endeavor, trying to encourage these kind of unique concepts to be up here.
And then from a business model standpoint, and from a zone's perspective, so the zone has been heavily involved with co-launch. And it seems, and I don't know, you can explain this better, but it seems like the business model is not only the makerspace, but inclusive of, right, the office space. So would be the idea that they would take over that role, or?
Of the office space?
Well, I mean, would they take over the role or the lead to co-launch as a portion of their development?
Not necessarily at this point. Okay. Now, we'll see how everything develops over the years, but at the moment, they're two distinct. But there are some synergies and some links between the two. We think we'll be able to work together.
If I can address that,
sure.
One of the things that is enticing, and one of the biggest reasons I wanted to do Titusville specifically, is the collaboration here. Mm-hmm. What you call co-launch, I call Brevard Tech Village. It's right. Adjacent to that. I pay about $6,000 a month for that amount, that portion of the space, and it's small incubators that go to student projects, small startup companies adjacent to the Fab Lab to use it. The exciting part about this is that I don't have to wear all of the hats. Okay. You've got so many people in this town doing it. What it really is an orchestra putting them together, and ultimately down the road, yes, a big single building. The other thing that you'll find out, I have a single purpose in this, and that is the kid walks through the door and leaves geometrically better having found us. I don't care who's in charge. Mm-hmm. Everybody here has that same goal, and that's what I like about this. If we want to call it co-launch, if we want to call it, it doesn't matter. It's people helping that goal. So mm-hmm. I think here we have the ability to really work together, and it's not all on just one entity.
Thank you. And then, Troy, I had my last one, I think that's it, was do you think there may be a possibility of the zone being amenable to another, revert to another loan? So the idea is that we are recouping the $50,000, but then we set back to another $50,000 loan to the zone. So we make the money accessible and then a repayment at the end.
I don't want to speak for what the zone board might
sure.
be willing to do, but I think that as I understand, what David has put together with his concept, with this particular model, they're looking for grant assistance that could be used essentially as seed money to get this thing off the ground and running. They're not looking for assistance that would then have to be repaid. The zone, of course, is at a point now where it no longer needs to borrow increments like that mm-hmm. to be able to do some of the things we want to do. We're working on programs and incentive programs that I think that we'll be able to afford based on the revenue stream that we have coming to us over the next few years. So I don't see us being interested in that at this time. You mm-hmm. never know, but for this particular project, no, this would be strictly just a grant.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Member Nelson.
Thank you. Don't go anywhere.
Go ahead.
Don't go anywhere. I have to say, like Member Behringer, I am concerned about the distance between where you're going to be located and South Street. I've ridden my bicycle down there. It's 5 miles. And so I think it's beyond what most kids, 6th grade, 7th grade, their parents would want them trotting down the road 5-6 miles. So that is a concern. That being said, I love the idea.
Okay.
I do have a question for you.
Certainly.
What are the operating hours?
Our operating hours, my day starts, because all of us, my day starts about 6 or 7 in the morning. We are open at Fab Lab to the general public from 2 o'clock until 8 o'clock every day.
Okay.
Except in the morning is when we run the field trips. The field trips start between 7:30 and 8 o'clock. We come in and prep for that, and then the buses come in. That's why we're not open to the public in the morning. So we basically operate that 7 days a week from approximately 7:30, 8 o'clock to 8 o'clock at night. So it's 12 hours a day, 7 days a week.
So you're open on Saturdays and Sundays?
Yes, ma'am.
And how many kids, say under 18, do you have there on a daily basis?
Outside of the field trips, so the homeschool groups, probably a dozen or so on any given day, and it's not the same, possibly 20. It's a smaller group. You know, if they're having an activity, you know, obviously if the Boy Scouts are building a car or Mensa Club or one of the little activities, that swells. But as far as the homeschoolers that come in, and one of the things about homeschoolers is there's always a parent.
Yeah.
And they'll come in groups. So that's a pretty regular event. And when you bring them in for field trips, and this is how the sales side, if you will, when the teachers come in with a group of students, it's not the teacher and 30 students. On average, there's about 1 in 3. There's a volunteer parent that comes with it. And they look around and they say, wow, this is really neat. I wish they had that when I was young. I said, well, they have it for you now. Come on in. We're doing this build, this build, this build. Bring your kids. We have family night on this night. So it's a place that you'd be surprised they make the effort. One of the things that with the university that I said, they said, well, how can you have all this equipment? Don't you get mad? I said, no, we're 3 miles from campus. It's not easy because a lot of the kids live on campus. The ones that make the effort to get over are genuinely interested, and there's a little bit of commitment on there. Now we do have, there's buses and stops where we're located. No, it's not an ideal neighborhood, but that to me is ideal because you start and it works out from there, because those locals will become involved, and everything from the. We do a lot of things down there, but we don't do the hydroponic gardening and stuff like that, which we will be doing here in the little community garden, and get the neighborhood involved with it. That's kind of a goal. Is that you want to change that neighborhood.
I have to say, I wish it had been around when I was growing up. I probably would have caused my parents much less heartache if I had been doing something like that. I love the idea, but I think that we still need to look at doing something for the kids in that target area.
Okay.
Probably in addition, I would like to say in addition to this.
Thank you. I do want to comment, though, not necessarily for the preteens, but for the teens on up, there are buses that go very close to there, so that would take a lot of that situation. Member Stogel?
Yep, thank you. Just to clarify, though, the reason we are picking this location is because we are getting it for relatively cheaper.
Essentially, it was a donation for the first year.
So
yes, ma'am.
I think, I would agree with Member Nelson. Maybe this is a step in the right direction. So in the future, maybe we can start expanding, maybe look at trade programs, the business incubator. I do have a question. You mentioned some colleges being your main funding source in the future.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
So and what we have, there's 2 that we are working with, and they have not been announced.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
And I know where that's going. The other thing is I was invited with, and largely the Fab Lab Hub, which is the MIT. They've looked at this as a revenue model, and they are excited about the potential of taking it across the country. They have a different set of colleges, same model. But what they would like to see is ABET accreditation on a vocational school, and that's within our reach. So hopefully, that's that. But either way, it is a solid, fully accredited university, and the academic support fee is the revenue model.
Okay. I don't know if this kind of goes into what you don't want to disclose. Then, have you guys talked to Eastern Florida State College?
Oh, absolutely.
We
do. We work with Eastern State. We work with FIT as well. We've even discussed their computer science and their business school. We have their students. We have NSF programs. We do I-Corps programs with FIT. We do a joint NSF with Eastern State. We have a SBIR coming up with UCF. We work with a lot of the universities. In the last 6 months, we have successfully gotten $400,000 in grants for FIT alone, and probably have a little over $2 million in proposed grants on the books. Now, we don't share in the revenue on that. But they're solid programs, and we have a good relationship with them. There is no formal affiliation, other than I carry them on my insurance, they carry me on theirs. But there's no dollars and cents, no management structure, no formal affiliation with any university at this point.
Okay. I just can see some really good potential. We have at the college, there's a cybersecurity degree, so a good transition potentially.
Absolutely.
So, okay, great, thank you.
Member Diesel.
I clearly find a warm place in my heart for the Leon South Street community and would never want to leave them out. But I'd also not want to put a roadblock up to, because it sounds like the first thing we got to do is get you here and get you started. Because if you're not here and you're not started, they're not going to get benefit from this anyway. So that's step one. Step two would be, as you said, one of the main reasons you came here is the cooperation and collaboration you felt. Well, I really feel like we would have some cooperation and collaboration in getting the community kids to this site. Vans from AME are out there, and I can tell you that Titusville High School could easily have some extracurricular activities focused on the community and use our vans to get them there. So I totally understand and totally agree with the thought, well, how could we make it closer? Could we get them more involved? But we've got to get started. We've got to get the start before we can get everybody involved. So, and again, I can just see how easy it would be for us to turn this into extracurricular and use our vans to get them there. And again, I think the churches in the area and the churches from Park Avenue to the Grove and everything else, that could be coordinated. We can get them there, but we got to get you started.
All of the field trips, let me rephrase that. The vast majority of the field trips that participate right now arrive on Brevard Independent School District buses. Those that are not part of that arrive on private school buses or in minivans. But there's transportation provided for that. That can be done, and to that degree, you have to start somewhere. Is it absolutely ideal in exactly the building I would like? No. Will it be fantastic? Will it be serviceable? Yes, it will. See, we start here, and we grow, and I'm a big one in earning it. We'll start there. I believe every member of this committee will be pleased with what they see in 3 to 6 months. I assure you won't see anything like it. It is unique, and it's pretty neat if you come down and see it. But I think you'll be very, very pleased. And I think that the community as a whole will be better off with it and be very pleased with what we're doing.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'd just like to address the issue of location because I realize that's a concern. It was mentioned earlier in the presentation, but it was maybe glossed over and David didn't dwell on it. One of the other entities that he's talking about with cooperation is the Space Museum. And the Space Museum is also going down the road of education, and they are going to put a facility in the old North Area Superintendent's office, which just happens to be right on South Street. And they're going to call it STEAM Space. And they are already in working agreements with Fab Lab to have some of Fab Lab's equipment at that location. So what I see is that some of those kids who can't get down to Mr. Beaver's facility will go to STEAM Space and partake of what they have to offer there and get turned on enough that they'll find a way to go down there. And it's all about collaboration and cooperation, and that should not be overlooked. It's one of the things he likes about Titusville is that we've got all these organizations work together. But when the South Street facility is up and running, I think that will go a long way to resolving the kind of questions you're asking, Member Nelson.
Good point, sir. Mr. City Manager, you have any comments you want to make?
No, sir.
Okay. What we need now is an advisability to grant funds to the expansion project. A motion.
I'll make that motion.
And a second? Second. Any discussion? All those?
Can I
Yes,
add one thing?
certainly you may.
I agree that we need the Fab Lab. I think it would be, absolutely wonderful to have it. I am concerned about the kids in that target area because now we're talking about mentoring, nutrition, a safe place to be. And that's something that I don't see Fab Lab providing for the kids. They provide mentoring in terms of dealing with their education, but some of the issues that the kids are coming up with, I'm not sure they're there to try to deal with those kind of issues. So I'm in favor of it, but I'm also in favor of another project also.
Thank you. I had the motion. Who made the second? I did. Oh, Member Stoker made this second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, same sign. Passes unanimously. You have the grant. Thank you, sir. Thank you, gentlemen. Boards and commissions is next. Historic Preservation Board, Mr. City Manager.
Yes, sir. Currently, there's one vacancy for an alternate member with an unexpired term to expire on 31 October 2018. There's currently one applicant on file for your consideration, Mr. David Dertinger, and he has expressed his willingness and desire to serve on this board.
Very good. Is Mr. Dertinger here? He's not. Okay. That's the one application. Would anybody like to make a motion to appoint Mr. Dertinger?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, like sign. It passes unanimously. Planning and Zoning Commission.
Yes, sir. Accept the Planning and Zoning Commission semi-annual report as written.
I have a motion to do that.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. Second from Member Stockel. Any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously. Municipal Code Board.
Currently,
Code
there's
Enforcement Board, sorry.
Yes, sir. Currently, there's one vacancy for a regular member with an unexpired term to expire on 31 October 2018. There's currently one application on file for consideration. Ms. Ashley Edens has expressed her willingness and desire to serve on the board. Her application is part of your packet.
Okay. Any questions on this or discussion? Accept the motion.
Motion.
Go ahead.
I make the motion to
Okay.
appoint Ashley Edens to the board.
Thank you, Member Nelson.
Second with discussion.
Second for discussion by the Vice Mayor. Go ahead, sir.
So, I just want to make sure that she's, the intent is to serve on both boards.
Both boards?
I'm sorry, so we just approved for planning and zoning, correct?
No.
I'm sorry, my apologies. What's that?
Sir, what planning and
Sorry.
zoning was a semi-annual report.
My apologies. Okay,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you. Thank you.
Okay,
Sorry.
we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say yes. Yes. Any opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously. Next item is Titusville Service Award Select Committee. Mr. City Manager.
Resolution 23, 2013, amending resolution numbers 1-2011, 5-2001, 36, 1997, 33, 1996, 74, 1987, and 7, 1987 by amending the procedures for the Titusville Community Service Award in memory of Reverend Harry R. Lee. Please note that the mayor appoints the chairperson and clergy representative with confirmation by the City Council. Mayor Johnson has appointed Ms. Pam Avery as the chairperson and Pastor David Price of Great Outdoors Community Church as the clergy representative for the Titusville Community Service Select Committee. City Council is being requested to confirm their appointments.
Any questions from council? Both of these people have been involved before with this, so they're well qualified. I'll accept a motion to appoint Pam Avery chairperson, and Pastor Dr. David Price as a member of the board.
Make a motion to confirm the appointments that you've made.
I have a motion from Member Nelson. I have a second from Member Stockel. Any further discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, passes unanimously. Board of Adjustment and Appeals.
Accept the Board of Adjustment and Appeals semi-annual report as written.
I'll accept the motion to that effect.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously. Petitions and requests from the public present. Do we have cards with us?
We do have some cards, but they know to come up as two. I can call the cards if you'd
Yes,
like.
please. Please
Okay.
call the cards.
Mrs. Haggard?
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Nisha Haggard. I live on Valley Forge Road, and I'm here to petition the city for speed bumps on the road. We have a lot of people that are using it as a cut-through between Holder Road and Dairy Road. They're coming at high speeds. We've got a blind curve at the end of a long straightway. There's been numerous mailboxes knocked down on that curve. We've got children that are walking to Oak Park and Madison. Down there, we've got kids riding their bikes, and it's become very dangerous. It's a blind curve. You can't see coming from the other direction when somebody's speeding down that road, and they're cutting the curve right into the lane where you're trying to come around it at. It's just, there's two little girls that live right there on that curve. Every time I see them out there on their tricycles on the sidewalk, it just puts chills, because one of these days it's going to be them instead of a mailbox. And we need to do something to slow it down.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. City Manager, will you talk to that person and see what the situation is?
So let me have Mr. Cook come up and describe the procedure for in placing speed bumps. It may be a good time for council to hear this as well.
Thank you.
Good. So the city has an established policy for installation of speed humps. We have a petition process that requires half of the street to concur with the install of a speed hump. Then we do a traffic study to warrant the install. Has to be 1,000 trips per day, has to be exceeding the speed limit by 10 miles per hour. And if those criteria are met, the city pays for the speed hump, no out of pocket. If they're not met, we bring it back to the board with the option of the citizens paying half. If we could get the address, we'll certainly mail the petition out tomorrow, and we can start that process on the street.
Okay, ma'am. Very good, thank you. Next card, please.
Art Edwards?
Good evening. Just briefly, I am a resident of Mims, but I am a property owner in Titusville. My daughter and my grandchildren live in Titusville. I'm the worship master of a Masonic Lodge in Titusville. I attend church in Titusville. So I'm pretty connected to the city of Titusville. I'm retired from the Space Center. Spent 45 years in aerospace, primarily in engineering. But I'm also a member of the Boys and Girls Club Board of Directors. I'm a charter member, started back in 1995, 96 in that era. And for a long time, I was the president. I oversaw the transition of the Brevard units to Orange County, or rather Central Florida. So we're now affiliated with Orange County, Osceola County, Seminole. There's a Central Florida Boys and Girls Club. We have units in Mims, Harity Moore in our housing project. We have another unit in Tipper Terrace in Palm Bay, well, actually North Melbourne. And we have a unit in Cocoa on Dixon. The original Boys and Girls Club was at the Gibson Center in Titusville. It started as a prevent grant. Department of Juvenile Justice. We ran into some issues, but we've learned over the years, and now we're ready to come back to Titusville. There's a need. I gave you some information earlier, and I don't want to belabor the point. Am I on a time limit? I'm good? Okay.
No, you're good for another minute, sir.
Okay, all right. But if you look at the Boys and Girls Club, we have a very effective program. We have a strong emphasis on academics, but more than that, we have a strong emphasis on character building. If you look at our membership, they don't get arrested. They don't get kicked out of school. They abstain from premature sexual activity. We have no pregnancies in the club. They read on grade level or above, and it goes on and on. But this is in the literature that I passed out to you. What I'm here for tonight is kind of to plant a seed. I would like to ask you all to consider perhaps putting $50,000 in your budget to help us get a Boys and Girls Club in Titusville. And I can come back and give a more formal presentation at some point in time if that's what's needed. I think it will be good for Titusville, and I certainly know it will be good for the youth in Titusville. If you look at the payback for Boys and Girls Club membership, the return on investment is incredible. And if you look at the information that I passed out to you, you'll see that we've got verifiable data that you can look at to see what you get for your money. So if you would please consider $50,000 or more.
You won't live in us. That's good.
If you would consider that, and if I need to come back and make a more formal presentation, I will.
All right. Any comments? Oh, we have a bunch. Go right ahead. Yes, you're up first.
Art, my understanding is the Parks and Rec used CDBG grants for the Kyler Center in MEMS. Is that correct?
For the Kyler Center?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And they also used it at one point for the Gibson Center.
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall how much that was?
Not right offhand, I don't. In terms of the Boys and Girls Club, our biggest funding came from the Department of Juvenile Justice, and that was $150,000. The CDBG money, I think, was in the $25,000, $30,000 range, but I couldn't tell you for certain, but that's what I recall. It was in the much lower range.
Has the Department of Juvenile Justice cut that funding?
Yeah, it was a grant where we had to provide statistics. They were doing some dosing and seeing, if you put kids in a certain environment, how it changed behavior and what have you. And the grant extended for about 5 years, 6 years, and then they cut the grant.
Did you guys keep statistics about crime rates during that period of time?
Oh, we did.
And can you tell me what it did to the crime rate?
It went down. It probably didn't go down as much as... This is on the juvenile level now.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
What I can tell you is one of our original members, he works in Titusville, and I can introduce you to him if you'd like. But he came to me about 2 years ago, and he was excited because he told me the Boys and Girls Club saved his life. Because at 13 years old, he had decided he was going to be a drug dealer. That was his career choice. He had chosen the corner that he was going to sell on, and he knew who he was going to sell for. And he became a member of the Boys and Girls Club, and he turned his life around. He went to the Job Corps. He went into culinary science, and he's a chef now in Titusville.
Okay.
Well, I shouldn't say chef. He cooks, prepares food.
He has a catering company.
He has a catering business, yes.
Okay. I think the most inspiring story that I ever heard was you told me about the girl from Melbourne whose parents had her buying drugs.
Yes.
And that was amazing.
And this is a recent story. Now, the person I'm talking about was from back in the 90s and the early 2000s. Mm. But this young lady just graduated. In fact, she just got a scholarship to attend a college because her parents, they don't, what's the proper word? I'm not sure what the proper word. She signs for her parents.
Yeah.
And as a kid, her parents, she had to sign for her parents to do their work with their drug dealer. And she has a very, very touching story when you hear it. But it didn't stop her. But she just earned a full scholarship. I think Wellesley College may be the name of it. That she's going to go, and she's going to become like an interpreter, and that kind of thing. But I mean, there are stories all over of where kids get their lives turned around.
Well, I have to say that was something that in our meeting with the community, they asked for youth programs and specifically a Boys and Girls Club.
All right, Member Stokel.
Thank you for bringing this up. I understand this is not a formal presentation, but you did mention $50,000. Are you looking for potentially some startup funds, or would this be an ongoing yearly budget amount that you would want?
Well, right now we're looking at a capital campaign, and we're looking at 2, maybe 3 locations. And so where we locate is going to determine how much money we have to raise. We really want to go back to the Gibson Center. Really want to go back to the Gibson Center. So I would say $50,000 would be the seed money. But the way the Boys and Girls Club is geared is we don't just start and stop or close units. So we have to have 2 years of operating funds before you can open the doors. So we'll have to have a very serious budget, and I can bring that back and share that with you all once we determine where we're going to go exactly. But we're looking at right now 3 locations.
Okay. No, I'm excited to hear future plans and entertain it to see what we can do to help.
Okay. Vice Mayor?
Thank you. And then I'm grateful that you're here. Is there, in relative and possible working with Parks and Rec, does it have to be a standalone building for Boys and Girls Club? I mean, if you're at Collier, then is Isaac Campbell an option?
No. In fact, we're very innovative in how we conduct our clubs. Okay. We in MIMS, the Boys and Girls Club is in a housing project. Okay. We have 2 units there on Harity Moore. Mm-hmm. We have Boys and Girls Club, not in Brevard County, but within the Boys and Girls Club on military basis. We have them in after-school programs, where the school allocates space and what have you. So we're pretty innovative. I mean, we'll go where the need is and where we can fit in. Now, we do have some pretty rigid rules in terms of security and that kind of thing. So, where we go, they have to meet our security requirements for the youth that we serve.
So I would be very excited to be supportive of moving forward. So, City Manager.
And excuse me, but to answer your question more fully, we are in talks with Parks and Recreation. We're trying to see where we can partner and collaborate and make this thing happen. We're not looking to have a unit that's separate and apart from, any other possible partnership, if you will.
Okay.
Mr. City Manager.
Yes, sir. And we did speak with the county manager and his team about a month ago, and he did let us know that the RFP, the request for proposal for the Gibson Center, will be out sometime late spring, early summer.
Okay.
And that is MSTU funded, so.
Well, that's where we're hoping we end up.
Okay. Member Diesel?
As a longtime coach and athletic director, we have called athletics the greatest dropout prevention program going by the schools. I look at you in a similar vein. You provide leadership, discipline, work ethic, priorities. I certainly look at you the same way. However, Thursday I'm on the Brevard Parks and Recreation Board as well, and I can tell you that they speak similarly to what you're bringing out there, including the word Gibson Center. And I'm glad to hear you say, because one of the things I wanted to say was, we need that collaboration and we need that shooting for the same goal. Because in my mind, I don't want to say I don't care which group takes off and gets this done, but there's got to be that leadership and discipline and collaboration. I also met, and I said this previously, but it's pertinent here, with a superintendent's meeting that had the YMCA involved, and they apparently are running they are running a program at Jackson Middle School right now for up to 100 kids a day after school, and BPS is directly tied in with that. So I see the Parks and Rec doing a great job. I know from your track record and the Kyler program, you do a great job, and YMCA certainly put out there that they do a great job. I kind of like what the superintendent said. A lot of people say we don't want to put our eggs all in one basket, but what he was saying was he'd like to get all these people together and sit down and say, what can we do? It shouldn't be we've got Parks and Rec over here and we've got YMCA over here and Boys and Girls Club. Let's work together. And I know there are some ways you can't work together. I get that. It's separate programs, separate philosophies, perhaps in some ways, mostly the same, I think. But I think that we've got to work together, and I think this council has shown that it wants some program to take control, and let's get these kids that leadership and that dropout prevention program, and that's just part of the program because you spoke of teen pregnancy and drug dealing and all the things that go with no leadership and no responsibility. And I think in athletics we provide that, but I see you guys on the outside providing that, and I'm very glad, as everyone else has spoken, that you're here. And if we need more to hear from you later, I'd like to see that. And if we need a roundtable that would put you and Parks and Rec and YMCA and maybe even the superintendent all at the same table, let's get those eggs in the basket to get this thing home.
Member Nelson.
I did have one other question, Art. I know the Central Florida Boys and Girls Club covers a number of counties.
Mm-hmm.
Do the other counties support the Boys and Girls Club? Are they getting funding? Say Orange County, do they fund Boys and Girls Club?
Absolutely, yes.
And how about the cities over there?
I'm not certain to what extent.
Okay.
But I do know, over in the Altamont Springs area, they've got a very strong group that runs that, and they pull money from the county and so on and so forth, and the city residents support it. I can only answer your question with a certain amount of certainty.
Okay. I didn't know if you knew or not.
No, not right. But I can get that information. I just don't have it right offhand.
I'm curious, and I know that you guys are feeding the kids during the summer too, correct?
Yes.
And you've worked out an arrangement with, I think it was with the school board.
That's one of the things that we've done. We kind of do whatever we need to do to ensure that the kids have a safe environment during the summer, that they are properly nurtured, and so on and so forth, and that they have recreation activity. We do, in fact, work with the Cala Community Center, and we take the kids up there during the summer. Okay. But again, our thing, and this is not a slight against Parks and Recs or anything like that, but security and the safety of those kids is paramount. We've got to know who's around them at all times. We've got to know that they're safe, and there are just certain things that's not negotiable. Yeah. And so that kind of limits some of the things that we can do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Do you have an athletics component to your Boys and Girls Club?
It depends on the location. In Brevard County, we don't have any locations that have a gym, a soccer field, anything like that. We have to use other facilities for that kind of thing.
But you would consider it if somebody has those things?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But it's not a priority, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
The priority is on scholastics. The priority is on character building.
Athletics is certainly character building. I think that was mentioned before.
But athletics is really big. In fact, the first speaker we had over here, youth speaker, was Antonio Tarver, the boxer. Mm-hmm. He was a light heavyweight champion.
Yes.
He came out of the Orlando club.
What's the age limit?
6 to 18.
6 to 18?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other questions?
Let me ask one other question, because I don't know if everybody is aware of this. And then I'll be quiet. I'll be quiet. You don't charge any of the kids anything?
No. You mean to attend the Boys and Girls? No.
So if a kid walks off the street, has no money, is hungry, needs a place,
we provide a safe place.
Okay.
Yeah. The requirement is behavior.
Okay.
Once they come, they've got to adhere to the rules. But we don't turn kids away because of money or finances or family situations.
Okay. Thank you.
I think that's all the questions, sir.
Okay. And if you need me to come back, I certainly can do that.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks.
Mr. City Manager, I think I see a consensus here. Where do we go from here with this?
Well, sir, we would take a look at the 18 budget bill and put it in next year's budget if that would be what your desire would be. But I would suggest that we explore the MSTU because we are paying into the MSTU now for Parks and Recreation. And the Gibson Center is due to be bid in late spring, early summer. So that would be my recommendation.
Well, I think you want to look at that and then come back with a...
Or that the Boys and Girls Club would have to bid on that work in the Gibson Center. It would have anything to do with the city.
I guess we'll have further discussion at a different time as to any other options you might have. And I'm not sure, would you be interested in bidding on that?
Yes, we would.
Maybe we can do that. But I think you probably need some help.
Yes, sir. And you have been in contact with Park and Rec, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir. So Boys and Girls Club would have to bid for that work, sir, and win the work.
And let me see if I can more fully answer your question. I've been in touch with Jeff Davis, who is the North Area Superintendent person. Yes, I have talked with him. We haven't made any agreements, but we've had conversations.
Yes, sir.
Evidently, there's a bidding process to get involved with that, and they, of course, have sway over Gibson Center, too, which appears where you want to go.
Yeah.
So
is this going to be a purely financial decision, or is it going to be other considerations?
Sir, it's a formal bid process from the county. The county will put out a request for proposal, and it'll list the requirements for that proposal. And I can't speak for what that proposal is going to look like, but I would suggest that you get hold of Park and Recs through Jeff Davis and find out the timing of when that's going to come out and what the requirements are going to be so that you can properly bid it.
Okay.
Are you asking if the bid is a monetary bid?
No, I'm trying to understand what the basic requirements are going to be. Is going to be not only what you can afford to pay or what you can, but what do you bring in terms of programming and whatnot? How do you involve the rest of the community and so on and so forth?
I'm afraid you really will have to ask him that, but I don't think it's strictly a monetary. I don't believe.
And the reason I'm asking is like I said, I spend most of my time in Titusville, and I know the Gibson Center is considered a community resource, and especially the gym. So I can wait and see what the package looks like when it comes out.
All right. I have a series of lights. I will ask you all to make this the last bite at this apple, please.
This will be the last bite. I believe the CEO from the Boys and Girls Club is coming over next month to do a presentation to City Council. I have talked to Jeff Davis, who indicated that MSTU money is basically to maintain the parks. So maintaining the parks isn't necessarily providing for a Boys and Girls Club.
No, ma'am, that's not correct. It's MST money that goes for parks
Correct.
and recreation. Recreation is the Gibson Center.
Anything else? Member Stokel?
Yep. You said you were looking at 3 locations. So if for whatever reason the Gibson Center didn't pan out, what other locations were you looking at?
Well, I talked briefly to the superintendent about the old, Westman Hills facility.
Okay.
But we'd like to have the whole thing. Now, I know there's some competition for that. But that would be ideal for a Boys and Girls Club. We would just knock the whole thing down and build from scratch.
Okay.
And we've talked to some folks down in South Brevard, the Indian River Civic Center people.
Okay.
We've talked to.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Member Diesel?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate, just so there's no misunderstanding, that at the Parks and Rec board meeting this past Thursday, I launched my part by stating I wanted to see more what North Brevard Parks and Rec, Jeff Davis and the gang were looking to do with the after-school youth programs. I think that's a big deal to us. And he came across to me that they had programs, were going to increase programs, and I'm not going to speak for him. I'm being very vague here, but I do know that he spoke of the Gibson Center, and that's why I said I really feel like there needs to be some communication about who's doing what with that, and maybe, again, I don't know that we're talking to each other, and I go back to the superintendents, all the eggs in one basket. I think we got a basket here, we got a basket here, we got a basket here, and none of them know how many eggs are in anybody's basket. I really feel like we all have a great idea of what we want to do, but we're not sure what they want to do, or maybe we could work together. I'm just saying, before we start moving too forward, we need to find out what everybody's doing and what eggs they got.
Yeah, my expectation would be before the CEO comes over and talk to you all, is we really need to take a look at the footprint and understand the type of programming that we can put into the Gibson Center, what we think the renovation costs are going to be, what it's going to take to run it, and so on and so forth. We have not done that, but that's something that we need to do.
Well, I have no doubt you guys, with whatever you do, are going to do a great job, and wherever you do it. But I have to say, in behest of North Brevard Parks and Rec, I feel like whatever they do, they're going to do a great job. And then I've seen already YMCA doing a great job at Jackson Middle School with up to 100 kids a day. So I just would like to see everybody kind of get together and say, what is it we're going to do and who's going to do it?
Yeah, and we have had conversations. The only thing is we don't have any commitments. I mean, we've had conversations. We probably need to move the conversations to a different level, where we're now taking a strong, hard look at, well, what does this actually mean in terms of dollars and cents and the number of kids that we can serve. We haven't done that, and that's probably what we need to do next.
I agree.
All right. Member Diesel.
No, I'm done. That's on.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
We'll leave it
And
there.
I apologize. This was kind of impromptu.
You did a fine job.
Well,
So.
long as you know what we're trying to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Let's see where we are here. Next card.
Danny Treader.
Mayor, City Council, my name is Danny Treader, 2110 South Washington Avenue. I'd like to bring up tonight, in the Shoreline Mixed Use, where I have a piece of property, I've been approached to get into a partnership with a corporation to basically use the footprint, the building, everything that I have developed so far on the shoreline. And the reason why I handed that out, I know a lot of you are new to the council. And about 10 or 11 years ago, I started working on this project, getting all the permits that I needed to get, all the architecture, all the plans, everything was approved by the city. And basically, what I want to do is be allowed to do assisted living at this location. And with the shoreline mixed use, there is no place in the code for assisted living. And basically, you can have multifamily, restaurants, ice cream parlors, professional business, medical, dental, offices, clinics, hotels, motels, any existing use within the district and not listed above, but I don't think we have any assisted living in there. Bed and breakfasts, and basically what I saw in the shoreline mixed use, I'm going to paraphrase some of this, is it is in the intent of the district to encourage and enhance a mix of residential, public, semi-public uses. Again, paraphrasing, it is further intended that careful treatment of the visual environment and principal views of the public be considered when development is undertaken. This district shall be in accord with the promote and purpose set forth in this comprehensive plan. Basically, I have an extension to a condo project until 2017, and basically what some developers have approached me on doing is they want to partner with me to develop a resort senior living facility. I don't know if any of you have been there, but if you go down to Palm Bay and look at the Fab Lab, you can go over to Palm Bay, and what happened when everything took a nosedive in the 2003, 4, 5 era, he had a condo project that he was getting ready to develop. And basically what happened is he went to Palm Bay City Council and said, can I use my footprint to build a assisted living facility? It's up and running. When I went to there, it just, as soon as you walk in the front door, it's like you're entering a resort. You walk in, you see the river, you see like a concierge area. The dining room, they have menus for the people. It is incredible. It would actually, I believe, raise the standard of what we have in Titusville because you always have to keep up. And as far as and some of the amenities of this project, what they're talking to me about is include amenities, a true dining room experience. Most rooms that the individuals would be in would be facing the river or have a river view. I already have a pool, jacuzzi set up, boat dock, hair salons, roof garden, exercise room, libraries, computer rooms, theaters, rehabilitation services. The partnership would like to invest between $16 and $18 million to create approximately 50 new jobs and hire local contractors to build these facilities. With Mayo Clinic and Parrish diagnostic outpatient services, a quarter mile away, I talked with Peggy Busaka. She says staff would be supportive of considering an ALF in the SMU zoning district. This has happened within about the last year. The architect that designed my development is also the one who designed this assisted living facility. They would want to use the same footprint. It's going to look exactly similar to what's there, so it will look like Somerset, what is that, approximately 5 lots to the south. I have done extensive shoreline revetment, and those permits were given to me by the Army Corps of Engineers. And I've also done some work that St. Johns River Water Management wanted me to do. As far as I think that about covers it, basically, I didn't want to just come up here and say I'm looking for shoreline mixed use. There is a reason why I'm looking for it, because when I went to this development, it made me smile the whole time I was there, probably like you were at that Fab Lab. It's nothing like, if you've never seen one of these facilities, it's incredible. He charges basically the same amount as he does for a regular nursing home there, but he's got economy of scale with all the units going up. So as far as, there'd be approximately 120 to 130 rooms there. And they have a little family room, they have a bedroom, they have a bathroom and a little cooking area. And there is, I didn't want to forget this, there's not just assisted living, but there's also going to be with this memory care. And that is growing so fast up in down in Palm Bay, he had to create another floor because that seems to be where a lot of his clients are coming from, is memory care. And basically, in closing, I would ask you to support assisted living as a permitted principal use in the shoreline. Also, I know this may be difficult, and I don't know how we go about it, but I have a conditional use for height on that property. And it's for residential use, and to make something like this work, we need economy of scale. And so as far as I would like to see how we could go about using my, if this would all go through with this other company, how we could make it go through with using either an somehow incorporating residential assisted living with assisted living or condo. They are different, but it is residential. So I think that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Treader? I see none. Mr. City Manager, what would the next step be on this?
I believe you've started working with staff?
I just contacted Ms. Busaka, and basically her letter said what I said, that they would consider. They would. I didn't think it would give them a lot of heartburn to look at that.
I don't see any solution from that or direction.
No, sir. They need to start working with staff.
Right.
Okay. Mr. Treader's just introducing the concept to the council so that you're not surprised.
You're already working with staff to that degree?
All I did was give Ms. Busaka a call and asked her basically. I knew you guys were going through another ordinance or new codes, and I think that comes up in April, and I wanted to make sure if it was possible to get the SMU in the SMU that this could be a permitted use.
I think what I'm hearing is you have to go back to Ms. Busaka and say and make the whole presentation to her. Oh, there you are.
Yes. She just pops in.
I think what Mr. Treader is asking is for you to approve advisability to move forward, for develop an ordinance, and then we'll bring it back.
Now we got a direction. See that? Okay, that's fine. Would somebody like to make that motion? Okay. Wait a minute. Somebody's before you. Vice Mayor.
Yes, so I think what I heard was two separate things. So one is relative to shoreline mixed use, a review of that to include the potential of assisted living. Second was specific to the property and design, of which has already been engaged over the few years, is that council's review or consideration of extending height for development of a specific project. So from a direction or a litmus test to see where do we go with this, one, I know as a council, for myself as a council member, I would be very comfortable with reviewing with staff or bringing before council a revision to SMU that would be inclusive of assisted living. Second, at the appropriate time of submission of project for a review as an individual, I would be happy to revisit the restriction that's specific to this property when staff would bring that forward, if that would be appropriate. Does that? Nope.
That's plenty of direction.
Thank you.
That's fine. I just want to let you know with regard to a specific project, staff would not bring that forward. An owner of property, if he wants you to review his CUP or his project, he would apply and bring that to you as a quasi-judicial item. Just a little difference.
So at this point, we're still going back to staff.
Right.
Here she comes.
She's back.
I don't believe that there is a conditional use permit even that can be requested for additional height. I believe that was removed from the code a number of years ago. So if what you're asking is that you want to bring back the conditional use permit for additional height, then that would also be required to be a code amendment before any specific project could be considered.
And for that, I would definitely be willing to revisit and take a look at that.
Member Stokel, did you still?
I just had one question. Is there parking for this property? Or I'm trying to look at
Yes, there's underground parking.
Okay, that's what I
there's
was
two
like, where?
floors of it. There's
Thanks.
approximately 48 parking spots underneath, and there's approximately 40 or so parking outside.
Okay.
Any other questions? I see none, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Any other cards, City Clerk?
We have one more card, Krista. I'm not sure how to pronounce the last name. Okay.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak this evening. It's Krista, Krista, and the last name's Cahoon, COLQUHOUN. And the issue at hand is reference to a vacant property located at 1825 Apricot Drive in Titusville, Florida. And I don't know if you are aware, but there are several other people in addition to myself who are having a problem with their water bill. Specifically, there is a Facebook group titled City of Titusville Water Bill Issues. Over 700 people belong to this group. So I'm not the only one who has a problem. And there's 3 separate issues, and I had provided handouts for everyone, but there was 3 separate issues in which there was a spike in the water bill. But the most significant one occurred on the January 4th, 2017 water bill, and according to the City of Titusville, the consumption was 55,000 gallons. Now again, the property is vacant. By vacant, I mean no one lives there. There's no toilets being used. All the outside faucets are capped. We have turned the water off to the property ourselves using the valve at the outside. The property is fenced in, and all of the gates are locked. I've done a lot of research on this myself, and to give you an idea of how much 55,000 gallons actually is, I would have had to flush the toilet 11,000 times, refill a swimming pool at least twice. There is no pool at the property. I would have had to take in 1,571 10-minute showers in that month, or run about 45 baths a day if I filled up the tub 40 gallons each time. So 55,000 gallons is, quite frankly, an ungodly amount of water, especially given the fact that it's a vacant property. And this is not the first time this has happened. This also happened on August 3rd, 2016. 10,000 gallons that time were the issue. Back on May 7, 2014, 20,000 gallons were the issue. Those 2 bills I paid. I tried to explain to the City of Titusville the situation with the property. We got nowhere, so I ate it, and I paid those 2 bills. But they have come out, they've done a meter test, and they've also done what's called a data test. Using their own data on the data test, there's 2 separate situations. From 11/15 of 2016 to 11/23, 2016. The start time that the water was turned on, if you will, 12:08 a.m. The end time, 1:08 a.m. And then you go to December, 12/9/16 to 12/12/16. Same thing, 1:08 a.m. to 11:08 p.m. What are the odds of the last digit of each time being the number 8? There's obviously something wrong with the meter. Like I said, there's over 700 people in my exact same situation. I've asked that the meter be replaced. I was told no, they will not replace the meter just because I'm asked. They are also charging me late fees. And at this time, as of this morning, they're going to turn my water off on February 21st. So.
All right. Is there a reason why you turned the water off and you didn't have the city?
Well, to be brutally honest, I don't trust the system, so that's why we've turned the water off using the outside valve to the property. Because, like I said, this has been 3 times now that I've been burned by this.
Okay, I think you probably would have been better letting the city turn it off so they could confirm that. Sorry, sir, she's up here. The second thing is, do you have an irrigation system on that property?
You do, but it's off of the pump, off of well water.
That's odd, because the way you're describing it, it's the same 1-hour period there. At any rate, Mr. City Manager, you have a suggestion?
Tom, I don't know if you have any further information. We did do the meter test. The meter did test at 99.8% accurate, so our only recourse, we can't, as you know, we don't have the authority to refund if the meter's functioning properly. So Ms. Calhoun's been informed that her recourse is to go to the Board of Adjustments and Appeals to make her case.
Ms. Stokel, do you have?
Yeah, I just have a couple questions. When did you actually turn your water off? Was it prior to, 2 years ago?
It was right around the time that we got, this would be the January 4th bill, so it was right around that time we turned it off.
Okay.
But it's been turned off several times, because like I said, it is a vacant property, so it's been turned off, and I've owned it, it'll be going on 8 years, so we've turned it off several times in that 8-year period, because again, there's no one there to use the water.
Okay, so why do you, I guess my reasoning would be, why do you need to turn it on? Is there reasons to have the water on there?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's basically a second home, but yeah, I mean, I'm a paying customer. I don't see I should have access to water if I need it, if I go over there to check on the property or whatnot.
Okay. Then I guess that answers my other question. You do get billed other months between here. These were just spikes.
Correct,
in
and
your
that's
bill.
an excellent question, actually. The 3 months prior to this outrageous billing, the water consumption was right on point. It was at zero consumption for the previous 3 months. And again, I actually checked it today as well. It's on point for this month as well at zero consumption. It should always be at zero
So
consumption.
some months you aren't charged anything, is what you're saying?
Well, that's the correct way to charge me is zero consumption. Because again, there's no residence, there's no toilet flush, there's not even any appliances in the home. There's no dishwasher.
Except when you're there. Except when you're there,
Correct.
and you turn it off at all other times.
Okay, and then I had one more. Have you checked the meter reading to see if the numbers actually did go up? Have you looked at the meter reading?
I did look at it, and then it flashes two sets of numbers. And you'll forgive me, I'm not familiar with how to
Okay.
read the meter.
Okay.
But the last time I looked at it, and I actually took some photographs of it, it flashes two sets of numbers. But the second set of numbers was 0.00, which is on point, like I said, with the bill the most recent bill. The consumption was at zero.
Okay.
So
And then have you had a plumber come out at all to see if there's
no,
something?
the city actually verified in their own data that there is no leak. They actually verified that for me, that there is no leak.
So a plumber from the city came out?
No. The city did in their data test.
We don't verify that there's leaks or not.
Okay.
The water comes to the meter, goes through the meter, and then beyond that, that's up to the customer.
Right. Yeah, I just...
What you're referring to is the data logs do show if water is
Okay.
going through the meter or not.
Okay. All right.
It appears, ma'am, your recourse is to go to the Board of Adjustments and Appeals.
That's a $600 fee.
Yes, ma'am. That's what it costs the city. It's not, the city isn't making any money on that. In fact, probably losing money on it. But that's what the cost is at this point.
Well, I mean, as I've noted in several of my letters to you guys, I've lost quite a bit of money thanks to the city of Titusville. I mean, Joe De Niro is here. I lost $57,000 because.
Ma'am,
of the
that
city.
has nothing, no
But
relevance.
it
has no relevance to this.
I understand that, but it's salt in the wound. I mean, that wasn't right what you guys made me go through, and now this. So, and now I'm going to get my water turned off on the 21st.
Yeah, it makes me just wonder if there's some type of other leak happening, like underground or something, because I'm still like investigating how the water department bills and whatnot, but I think what the city manager is trying to address is like, if the meter is really reading, 10,000 gallons, and then it goes up, we have to kind of bill for that. We don't know if you're there during that month or if you're not there during that month. We just have to go by those numbers, essentially. And we don't, I don't think, have a plumber that comes out and checks that. So
In the email dated from Carrie, February 3rd, 9:57 a.m., no leak was indicated during the site visit, and the read was 138, whatever that means. So Carrie
Yeah.
specifically stated there is no leak.
Yes, ma'am. I believe what the comment is on the data log itself, they're showing no water going through the meter. We don't verify for leaks on the customer side of the meter.
Okay. So there could be potentially an underground leak or something that we're not picking up on our end.
But 55,000 gallons, though.
That's what makes me nervous.
The
There's
home
some
would be in a sinkhole. And you have granted adjustments for other residents when WFTV did the very similar story, and the resident featured in that story, she got a refund. But for whatever reason, I'm being denied one, me and several other people as well. So I don't think it's fair to grant an adjustment for some customers, but you're not willing to grant me one.
Do we know why that one was refunded?
Yes, the meter was defective.
Okay, so in that one, the meter was. Okay. This is tough.
Are you through? No?
Yeah, I'm good.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah. So at the end of it, 55,000 gallons, I don't care where it goes. I mean, it's a lot. So number one, that's the case. If the contingency is that the belief is the meter's bad, it's broke, we're out 55,000. What's the cost, or do we know offhand? What's the cost to the city to go out and replace it if we don't charge them? I mean, where I'm going is if this discussion is not to take two separate issues. One is fidelity of the meter. Second is going to be the cost that's associated to the bill. So, number one, okay, in this case scenario, if it is a change in the meter, we go put another one out, and there's not an issue, or there is another issue again. Let's try it like that. You're dead wrong. Right. So we go put one out there. This thing comes up again. It's 55,000. I'm just saying, right? So that would be an option. And I get from a policy standpoint, but it just seems like it would be a potential fix. And then the second part would be the amount that's owed. So from the adjustment of the appeals, I think that's the course of action to go for. That's what the board is for. But I understand that a $600 charge plus is cost prohibitive for a resident trying to fix a water bill. And that is my opinion. I think it's cost prohibitive. So this is where I think from a change of policy standpoint, would there be a potential of adjusting the cost specific to water bills to help build faith and confidence and fidelity as a community into our department, that if it's $100 on a residential concern, that seems like at least people could be heard. Where I think it right now is just folks don't feel heard. I don't think we're ever going to get ahead of it. So.
On the first part, as far as the meter, it is a new, latest generation AMR meter. It tested out 99.8% accurate according to the AWA standards. That's why we have the ability to data log. It's only on the latest generation of meter, so it's not the meter.
Right. Okay.
And to address your cost recovery, in 2004, the city did a study for all the boards and the costs associated with permitting, and this particular cost recovery was actually $550 in 2004 dollars. That's what it cost to go before the board. The council at that time chose to make that expense $450 to go before the Board of Adjustments and Appeals, so that potentially we could take a look at the cost, but I would say it would probably go up, not go down.
Right, and I would agree with that. I would agree that it doesn't change the cost of what the board is, but and this is to a separate issue, but at least worth discussion. Possibly is that the avenue of recourse is a brick wall right now, and I'm not saying that it's the outcome is different, but from a citizen engagement, I can understand how as citizens I feel like I'm beating my head against the wall and I can't get anywhere, and I think that from at least a voice of being heard, that if you're sitting in front of another group of citizens, I think it would be helpful. But you can't do it for $600 or $500 or something like that. So.
Member Nelson?
This is maybe a silly question, but I'm assuming that if she pays the $600, goes before the award, and wins, that money comes back to you.
That's correct, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay. But I agree with Member Behringer, that is a large amount for most consumers to pay up front. And maybe we need to look at making it lower.
Member Stokel?
Just to clarify, so if she does go before the board and it's found that those charges they believe are accurate, she's out the $600 plus those charges, correct?
No, ma'am. They'll make the adjustment. That's what the Board of Adjustments does. Is they hear a case. You can present your case, and then the city will say what we've done to try to, and then they'll determine.
So there's no further
the appropriate
testing
adjustment.
or anything like that. It's just the city's.
There's nothing else we can do.
Right, and then whatever you prove. Okay, so and then if she does pay the $600. They may waive that fee and just charge her these if they...
And just for clarification now, it's $450 to
okay.
appear before the Board of Adjustment Appeals, and then the advertising costs associated with it are $150. And that's what it costs us to run the ads.
Okay, so it's not guaranteed she would get that money back.
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, I think we should look at...
I think a lot of the questions were just answered because as a rookie, I was trying to understand the process of getting to this board. And I was also trying to understand the cost, the $600 what the cost is to hold this board. And I think you kind of explained that. Is there? But I think I have to agree. I don't want to give up the mic without saying that. If I am in that situation over there, it's a little bit menacing to say, okay, you can appeal, but you got to have $600 to do it. I don't know that there's an answer to that, and you again gave some reasons why it is that, so I'm not trying to be totally jumping up and down, but that does seem to be a detriment to trying to get to your justice, right or wrong. I mean, you may have one heck of a leak and there's nothing the city can do about it, but to get to that, probably the $600 concerns me more than anything else about it.
There is no other thing we can do at this point. You do have to go to BAA. I find it interesting, though. You said, and I'm sitting here thinking, well, everybody's talking, that it showed it went on at 12:08 and then off at 1:08.
Yes, sir, that's correct. Yeah, that's very interesting. And then again on 12/9/16 through 12/12/16, 1:08 a.m. to 11:08 p.m.
But that's a timer involved with that.
But it's oddly specific for all of the last digits to end in the number 8. That's just...
Unless it's on a timer of some kind or there's a person with a watch on.
That's what I'm saying. That's how
Well,
it's
that's not a leak. That's somebody turning the thing on somehow.
But at those exact same times,
That's my point.
what are the odds of someone standing there with the timer and says, I'm going to kill it at 12:08 and I'm going to kill it again
What
at
are the
1:08?
odds of it happening by itself?
Well, the other thing I wanted to bring up too is denials are issued automatically. When I first called to give this issue, they literally generated the denial letter the same day as my phone call. So my point being, we're automatically forced to the appeal decision. No matter what I call about, they push a button, they issue a denial letter, and I'm automatically forced to the appeal board, which is going to cost me
I don't
$600.
ever recall seeing that button, but
Well,
who knows?
It's a metaphor. But I'm just saying, and that is exactly what I was told by the manager of the water department. Denials are generated automatically regardless of your concern. So you're automatically forced to go to the Board of Appeals, hence you're automatically forced to pay $600. That's another flaw in the system.
Is that, Scott, is that true?
No, ma'am. I believe what was told is we will do the meter check to find out if the equipment is functioning properly, and then if found to be functioning properly, we can't, you're right, we don't have the authority to make adjustments, and the recourse is to go to the Board of Adjustment and Appeals.
But my denial letter was generated before any of that was done. My denial letter was dated January 6th, the same day as my phone call, and it was Debbie that said that to my father, and he can verify that's exactly what she said. Denials are generated automatically.
I don't believe that to be a correct statement. I know that we have that process of review by the customer service manager. Next level review is to my office, and then sometimes I consult with the city manager. We don't have an automatic denial process. It's just not the case.
One last question. Do you have a timer on any part of your system?
No, there's no timer on the meter either.
The sprinkler or anything like that?
No, the sprinkler doesn't run off the city water. The sprinkler
Does
runs
it have
off.
a timer on it?
Yes, but it runs off well water.
Well,
Does
as far as we know, it does, but I have heard of cases where they were hooked up incorrectly and didn't run off well water and had some...
No, and there's several dead spots in the grass. There's obviously no leak anywhere. And again, that was verified in through the email from the customer service manager that there are no leaks there either. So.
All right, thank you for letting us know, ma'am. It appears that your recourse is the Board of Adjustment and Appeals. Any other cards? Next is the consent agenda. We have A, B, C, and D. Are there any cards on any of these items, City Clerk? No, sir. Council, does anybody have any question on any one of these items, or does wants one polled?
I'd like to pull 8A, please.
Okay. City Manager, will you read the consent agenda B, C, and D?
Consent agenda item 8B, approve Police Department K-9 Reserve Fund Transfer Request. Consent agenda item 8C, approve change order number 5 to LMR Construction Incorporated of Frostproof, Florida, in the amount of $32,354 to furnish and install additional cure-in-place CIPP liner in the area of Delmar Court, and authorize the city manager to execute the change order. Consent agenda item 8D, accept the utility easements for AutoZone Stores, LLC.
All right, thank you. I have a motion to
Move to accept.
B, C, and D. Yeah.
Move to accept the consent items.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Motion and a second. There's no further discussion on this. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Like sign. B, C, and D pass unanimously. Back to A. Do you reintroduce this, or we go?
No, sir, it'd be the council member that pulled it.
Okay. Member Berry? Oh, okay. You waiting?
So I just had a question. Sure. Yeah. So
Microphone, sir.
I'm sorry.
Microphone.
Thank you. So the question I had was it listed what in the ask for North Brevard Charities was $25,000.
Yes, sir.
And then they came out at 15. And I guess the only thing what I didn't see in the matrix for evaluation, and it just raised a flag for me, was that the fundraising arm for the Women's Center is, thank God, it is incredibly, it does very well. And where I saw a need in a community is that I see drug abuse, substance abuse, on associated criminal activities that go along with that I think impact women who may potentially need the Women's Center as well. And I guess from a recommendation, what I was looking at was that if the Women's Center was to receive less, so it was to switch the 1 and 2 positions, whereas so therefore the North Brevard Charities received the one at the 90%. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir, that makes sense.
Okay.
But that's not how they were scored.
Correct.
Okay.
And I get the rationale for the criteria for scoring, but I just wonder from a direct benefit to the community, as it's a newer program that the Sharing Center was moving forward with, is the delivery of that service potentially looking at the Carter House? Is that where they're looking at landing it? Are they looking
No,
at
sir, this is
all
at a
over?
different location.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Would you foresee would you foresee any additional need relative to substance abuse, or it just seems like heroin abuse is not great right now, and that it's bad. And when I look at Main Street and some of the issues that are going on over there, that extra funding on that program may go further than the Women's Center in capacity-wise. I think the Women's Center capacity is going to be okay in relative to this program, which I think fits a bigger need. But I welcome your thoughts on that. So,
Well, we certainly hope the program will be successful. As you said, this is a new program, so not having any past experience with the program did take into account the scoring for the funding.
Okay.
Council would have the option, as you see how the funding is laid out, it was a balance given to the 4th applicant from all the other funding. So there is a balance there that would go to the 4th rank. If council chose not to give that balance, it could go to the number 1, number 2, or split between the 3 remaining.
okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. I need a motion to approve fiscal year 17-18 Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnership Grant funding recommendations.
I'd make the motion to approve of the recommendations for the Women's Center at $13,500, North Brevard Charities at $20,000, and Aging Matters at $6,000.
Do I have a second on that?
I have those numbers again.
And
In order to do that, you would have to change the ranking score, because then that would be North Brevard receiving more than the first ranked applicant. So I'm not sure how we would change the scoring.
What's the process if we wanted to do that?
We have
not
a set
sure
of
what
criteria that we score off of. So that's established, and that's how we rank order off of the scoring. So we would have to change our complete
Yeah, we have
process.
an evaluation committee that reviews the proposals and scores them, and we present, that's the outcome of the scoring. So
Okay.
we would have to change that procedure if.
Okay.
Okay, I heard no second on that motion, so we go back to the original motion to
Well,
approve.
can we second, or are we not allowed to, based on?
Only if you want to change the whole procedure, and that's not going to be done tonight.
Can I just advise council, we are on a time frame for developing the action plan, so any delay in the process could affect the city's funding for next year.
I would say it's not advisable to do it tonight, but certainly next year you can take a different look at things.
But you did say if we do approve this now, that potentially, even though we're approving it, that 5,000 can be moved?
The 5,000 you could distribute amongst the other three, but you couldn't make number 2 or number 3 getting a percentage more than number 1.
Okay.
So for clarity, the percentages stay, it's just the 5,000 gets split on those percentages. Got it, okay, all right. And that would therefore not require any change to the process, and we can move forward with that.
That's correct, but it would eliminate funding to the Early Learning Coalition.
Correct, right. Okay. And
I will accept the motion for fiscal year 17-18 Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnership grant funding recommendations. Do I hear a motion?
I do a second with an amendment, or a second for discussion.
We need a motion first.
Or
You have to make a motion.
So move, well, no. So make a motion to accept the fiscal year 17-18 Community Development Block Grant with the rankings of 1, 2, and 3 to move forward, and the balance of remaining funds to be distributed proportionately as per the ranking systems to the Women's Center, North Brevard Charity Sharing Center, and Meals on Wheels.
I have a second. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I just want to clarify with the Vice Mayor, do you just not want to see the Early Coalition being funded? Do you want to see it put into the other 3 more
Put
so?
into the other 3, correct.
Okay.
Actually, I have to vote on the amendment first. So, I need a motion on the amendment to approve the amendment. Hello?
Yeah, so
Eyes don't do it. You got to tell me something.
Sure.
Yes. I need a second on the amendment.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, like sign? Hearing none, now on the initial motion for fiscal year Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnership. Granting funding recommendations, I already have a motion, so we just vote on that. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
And I apologize, I have to, what specifically are we voting on at this point in time?
We made a motion first off, and you made that. Then you made an amendment.
Correct.
According to Robert's Rules of Order, first you have to vote on the amendment, which
Correct.
we did, and it was approved.
Correct.
Now we're voting on the motion, the first motion, and it has to be approved, and you get exactly what you...
Correct.
So my understanding is the motion to approve with ranks 1, 2, and 3, removing Early Learning Coalition, and that money being distributed based on the percentages to Women's Center, North Brevard Charities, and Aging Matters.
That's staff's understanding?
Correct.
So now I will ask again for a motion, not a motion, I will ask, all those in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously. That was easy.
Thank you.
Next is ordinance second reading. City Attorney, will you read the ordinance, sir?
Ordinance number 6, 2017, an ordinance of the City of Titusville, Florida, amending Chapter 15, Pensions and Retirement, Article 3, Police Officers and Firefighters Pension Plan of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Titusville, amending Section 15-126, Definitions, amending Section 15-176, Investment Powers and Authority, amending Section 15-191, Member Contributions, amending Section 15-192, State Contributions, amending Section 15-214, Disability, amending Section 15-216, Optional Forms of Benefits, amending Section 15-221, Maximum Pension, amending Section 15-222, Benefits effective June 30th, 2013, amending Section 15-224, Minimum Distribution of Benefits, amending Section 15-233, Deferred Retirement Option Plan, amending Section 15-235, Prior Police or Fire Service, adding Section 15-237, Supplemental Benefit Component for Special Benefits, Chapters 175, 185, Share Accounts, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for severability of provisions, and providing an effective date.
City Clerk, has everyone intending to speak signed the card?
We have no cards.
We have no cards. We'll open the public hearing. City Manager, would you?
The proposed ordinance amends the City of Titusville Police and Firefighters Pension Plan. With the recent adoption of the Florida Legislature Chapter 201534 Laws of Florida and changes the Internal Revenue Code IRC and its associated regulations, as well as guidance from the Internal Revenue Service. Mr. Scott Christensen, the board's attorney, proposes the amendment changes to the pension plan. They are summarized in a letter dated 28 September 2016 to me and referred to as Attachment B. However, subsection G, workers' compensation, was not amended. So the current actuarial rate of 2% was not changed and provided for the Florida statutes on grandfathering the multiplier that was in effect when the statutes were amended in 2015. According to Jim Lynn, our city pension attorney, no changes to Section 15-214G is legally required. Additionally, Section 15-222 amends the salary definition for police officers to increase special duty incentive paid and actual education incentive pay to a total amount not to exceed $6,750. This amount now mirrors that of firefighters. This item has been negotiated with the Fraternal Order of Police Incorporated Union and the authority given to the staff by the City Council during the executive session. The proposed ordinance also amends Section 15-199, reduction in member contributions from 8% to 6.5%, and Section 15-192 uses the same monies. This item has been negotiated with the Fraternal Order of Police Incorporated and the International Association of Firefighters, Local 2445. Also referred to as Exhibit C in the letter from the board's actuary, Foster & Foster Incorporated, indicating the costs associated with the adoption of some of the changes to the sections in this ordinance. And that was presented to you in your packet.
Okay. Does staff have anything to present on this?
Good evening, Mayor, Council members. Joe DeNiro, Human Resources Director. There are two components of the pension change ordinance that actually affect the member contributions and the benefits. Specifically, as Mr. Larice was reading, the contributions to the members will be affected by a reduction in their member contribution from 8 to 6.5%, and the pensionable earnings associated with the police officers will now be similar to those pensionable earnings that the firefighters enjoy. Those two changes will be effective beginning of the payroll period following this adoption. Essentially, those will go into place February the 20th. So I just wanted to specifically inform you when those two changes will be taking place. And the union members are also aware of that. So that's all I have.
Does council have any questions for staff? See none? And you said there are no cards on this one, or there is a card? No cards, okay. Close the public hearing. Any council discussion? See none, I'll accept the motion. What number is it?
So moved. Ordinance number 6-2017.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion is second. Any further discussion? Not hearing any. Is a roll call vote?
Member Diesel?
Yes.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Behringer?
Yes.
Member Stokel?
Yes.
Next item passes unanimously. Next item are ordinances first reading. City Attorney.
Yes, sir. Comprehensive Plan Amendment Number 1-2016 contains ordinances 7, 8, and 9. I'll read them together at this time. Ordinance Number 7, 2017, an ordinance of the City of Titusville, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances by amending Ordinance Number 60, 1988, which adopted the Comprehensive Plan of the City of Titusville, by adopting Comprehensive Plan Amendment 1, 2016, amending the future land use element of the Comprehensive Plan relating to Policy 1.19.12, and the inclusion of the Willow Creek development parameters, providing for severability and providing for an effective date. Ordinance Number 8, 2017, an ordinance of the City of Titusville, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances by amending Ordinance Number 60, 1988, which adopted the Comprehensive Plan of the City of Titusville, by adopting Comprehensive Plan Amendment 1, 2016, amending the future land use map of the Comprehensive Plan by changing the future land use designation for certain property with parcel ID numbers 23, 35, 10, 01, R4, 23, 35, 10, BB 179, 23, 35, 09, 001, and 23, 35, 04, 002, located west of Grissom Parkway and east of Challenger Parkway 407, from residential medium density, residential low density, and conservation future land use designations to the planned unit development future land use designation, providing for severability and providing for an effective date. Ordinance Number 9, 2017, an ordinance amending Ordinance Number 5, 1993 of the City of Titusville, Florida, by amending the zoning map made a part of said ordinance by reference, by changing the zoning designation on certain property with parcel ID numbers 23, 35, 10, 01, R4, 23, 35, 10, BB 179, 23, 35, 09, 001, and 23, 35, 04, 002, located west of Grissom Parkway and east of Challenger Parkway, State Road 407, from the multifamily medium-density residential R2, single-family medium-density R1B, and open space and recreation OR zoning classifications to the planned unit development zoning PUDZ zoning classification, providing for an effective date.
The applicant, Honeycutt and Associates, on behalf of the owner, KB Home Jacksonville LLC, is requesting amendments to the future land use element and future land use map and rezoning to accommodate approximately 636.8 acre development. The property is located on West Grissom Parkway, east of Challenger Parkway, State Route 407, and the Interstate 95 at the western terminus of Willow Creek Boulevard. The request is to amend the future land use map and the future land use element of the comprehensive plan to allow a new planned unit development future land use category and rezone the property to planned unit development zoning PUDZ district. The proposed development includes 1,277 residential units, patio homes, and townhomes, if there's a demand. Apartments and other forms of multifamily residential units were not included in the narrative. Approximately 172 acres of the commercial and or light industrial uses, and 224 acres of open space. The purpose of this request is to allow the development of patio homes, which are not permitted in the multifamily medium density residential R2 or single-family high-density R1B zoning districts. And Ms. Busak is available to give you some more information.
Any questions for staff? Or do you have a presentation?
Very short, I promise. I know the hour is late. The property is currently zoned for, as you can see, multifamily residential, single-family residential, and open space recreation. The proposal is to change the zoning to planned unit development zoning, which also requires a change to the comprehensive plan. This is the first of a three-step process. After the future land use and zoning approval, the next step of the process would be the preliminary master development plan, as well as the final master development plan, both of which would return to this council. And I am reading from the staff report that began on page 919 of your package. I know the evening is late, and so I just want to let you know that there is an extensive review and analysis of both the previous zoning and development agreement as well as the proposed. And it includes a review of access of the comprehensive plan for locational criteria of the future land use map as it deals with sprawl and as it deals with public service and concurrency. I would draw your attention to page 935 of the summary and recommendations, which recommends that the currency-related conditions are that a traffic study would be provided that would then give staff an opportunity to analyze the need and timing for traffic improvements, including a secondary access. Utility master plan would be required for all water, sewer, and reuse, and a market study would be required prior to the development of any non-residential. There are also master plan conditions, which include development standards for light industrial and commercial uses, a detailed master plan including the layouts of all proposed streets, a description of the proposed classification and conceptual design of Willow Creek Boulevard. The current side setbacks will be 15 feet unless any of these three conditions could be found, in which case the side setbacks would decrease to 5 feet, and those will be reviewed by the fire department. There would also be a secondary access point established prior to the development of any non-residential, and an environmental study would be required as part of the master plan. The maximum intensity, density, and included in the proposed comprehensive plan has the potential to exceed concurrency standards. However, the staff will review each step in the process and make sure that if there is an issue with concurrency, that the project will not go forward. That's what the state law says, that's what our comprehensive plan says, and that's how our process works. And so there will not be any levels of service that would be harmed in the approval of this project.
Council have any questions? I see none. Are there any cards on this?
Yes, sir. We have one card, Mr. Honeycutt.
Mr. Honeycutt.
Rodney Honeycutt, 3700 South Washington Avenue, Titusville. So this project went through City Council and Planning and Zoning previously before it was sent to the state. And this is the first reading of the adoption hearing. I think staff gave a good summary of what's happened. We met with staff several times to come up with those conditions that we all agreed on. And so rather than say anything else, unless you have any questions, I'm through.
Any questions, Council, for Mr. Honeycutt? I see none. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
There were no more cards?
No, sir.
Okay, close the public hearing. Does council have any discussion? I don't hear any. This is first reading, so there's no further action needed. Now we're on B, ordinance number 10, 2017. Mr. City Manager.
Be the city attorney first, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's an ordinance.
Ordinance number 10, 2017, an ordinance of the City of Titusville, Florida, amending the land development regulations by amending Section 35.4 mitigation plan and corresponding Section 30.34 mitigation plan of the updated land development regulations as adopted in ordinance number 27, 2016, to amend tree mitigation criteria, providing for severability, repeal of conflicting ordinances, effective date, and incorporation into the code.
On 13 December 2016, Council approved advisability to develop an ordinance amending the tree mitigation requirements in limited circumstances as requested by a citizen. Subsequently, staff received a proposed amendment to the tree mitigation provisions of the code. Staff reviewed the proposal and has recommended the attached ordinance, which reflects tree mitigation requirements as follows. Number 1, amends the current standards for replacing of native vegetation on a site from 5% of the lot or parcel per major tree removal to 100 square feet per tree caliber inch lost. The current standard treats major trees differently based on the size of the property, which penalizes the development of smaller parcels. It clarifies that any request for reduction in the fee paid into the Public Landscaping Trust Fund shall go to the City Council, not to the Board of Adjustment of Appeals, and establishes an appeal process for administrative interpretations relating to tree mitigation. When mitigation trees are removed, to address requirements established by the floodplain compensatory storage regulations, to a 1-to-1 replacement based on the tree caliber. This amendment, offered by a citizen, are provided on a separate attachment and not supported by the staff, and that's part of your packet. And Ms. Busaka is here to address any of your concerns.
I just have one item to talk about, and that is that as staff has continued to consider this, we are going to propose to you, and we'll bring back for the second reading, a slight change to the appeal process, as the practicality of installing required trees or tree mitigation, we feel it is appropriately a Board of Adjustment review, because they typically review other site plan related issues, and that the important part of this is for the appeal process that there will not be an appeal to the fact that if trees are not planted, then money will be provided into the tree mitigation fund, because currently that it has been asked, at least for sidewalks, and we're treating these the same, that people have come in and actually gotten those mitigation funds reduced, and that is reducing the ability of the city, in the case of trees, to have the aesthetics. And I remember I was here on Saturday when they talked about how important aesthetics is to the community, so we wanted to make sure that council's direction that that tree mitigation fund will be paid into will continue.
Very good. Does council have any questions for staff? Go ahead, please.
Just for scope of understanding, under Section 1, Item B, the contribution to the city's public landscape shall not be an amount equal to $100 per net caliber inch. What is a net? I apologize. What is a net caliber inch?
How big the tree is.
Okay.
And it measured at about 30 inches height.
Okay.
And what the code says is that if you have lost 100 inches of trees,
okay,
then you would mitigate and put back 200 inches of trees.
Okay.
But let's say that you don't have enough room on your property to put all of that.
Right.
The difference then between what you can put on your and what you're supposed to, that difference is the amount that would be mitigated. Yes, sir. And believe it or not, that is actually probably much lower than it would require if they were purchasing the tree themselves.
I totally defer to staff on that.
So it sounds $100 an inch sounds, but a tree that's 4 inches around, that's about what the cost is.
Sure. Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions for staff?
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Do we have the citizen here that's requesting other amendments that the city's not supporting right now?
Mr. Rice is here. He's the one who originally proposed the other two amendments.
I guess, Mr. Rice, do you want to explain the other two amendments? And
I didn't present a card, I was, because it was a first reading. Woody Rice, 505 Indian River Avenue. And having the luxury of administering this code for 9 years, I tried to look at a broader picture of other areas besides just the one area that might have the same thing. And I identified three. The three was compensatory storage, which is the one that's presented in front of you tonight. The other was the area of critical concern, and that's basically well perimeters where the aquifer recharges our wells, and we try to protect those from impervious surface intrusion in that area. And the third was stormwater. I did meet with your staff, and I do value your staff's opinion. They have to administer this code, so I'm comfortable with what they're recommending. The one that after we met, that I think is problematic in trying to address was the stormwater portion. It's going to get messy real quick, so I can sort of understand why maybe that shouldn't be on the table at all. I'm comfortable without the compensatory storage, but the need might be there down the road, in my opinion. I do value your staff's opinion, and we're fine with the ordinance as written.
Mr. Rice, can you fill out a card for us before you leave?
Yes, I will.
Thank you. Are there any other cards? Okay. I'll close the public hearing. Any council discussion? No further action is necessary on this. 10C, conduct public first reading. Mr. City, this is an ordinance. Mr. City Attorney.
Ordinance number 11, 2017, an ordinance of the City of Titusville, Florida, amending the land development regulations by amending Section 3947, road and sidewalk requirements, and Section 3948, bicycle facilities, and corresponding Section 3238, road and sidewalk requirements, and Section 3239, bicycle facilities of the updated land development regulations as adopted in ordinance number 27, 2016, to amend provisions related to variances, providing for severability, repeal of conflicting ordinances, effective date, and incorporation into the code.
Prior to being amended in 2013, Section 39-47 stated that no certificate of occupancy could be issued until sidewalks were constructed or the requirements for sidewalks had been waived or delayed. This resulted in a number of sidewalks to nowhere. In 2013, Council established the option of the construction of a sidewalk to nowhere by creating a sidewalk trust fund when the immediate construction of the sidewalk was not practical, and setting forth factors to be utilized in determining the practicality. Contributions to the Sidewalk Trust Fund are calculated as 100% of the average sidewalk construction cost on a per linear foot of street footage basis and established by the city's Public Works Director. Available funds will be used for the purposes of constructing, upgrading, or improving sidewalks along public streets within the city. Recently, property owners have been requesting and receiving variances from the construction of sidewalks contrary to the policy established by City Council. The intent of this proposed ordinance is to clarify that variances to the provisions of the code are not permitted.
Okay. Are there any cards on this item, City Clerk?
No, sir.
I guess I don't have to open the public hearing then. Does staff have any comments? Any questions from council to staff? Vice Mayor?
Thank you. Under Section 3238, page 980, it talks about any request for a reduction in fee shall be brought to the City Council for consideration. Is that... I understand the rationale. Why would we be... How would that play out, I guess?
Well,
what's the rationale for that?
Right now, the reduction, right now, the fee is determined by Public Works. So what you would be asked to do would be to disagree with your Public Works director. So it may be that you do not want to get into that situation, and you want to say, this is what it costs to go to build a sidewalk, and there is no reason to waive that cost.
Mm-hmm.
That cost has been determined by the Public Works director.
Okay.
So it's possible that you would like to take that out so that you don't have to be in the middle of second guessing what the cost of that sidewalk is.
I just the way I see it is that what we're avoiding and going to adjustment appeals to say, and they say, okay, don't do it, that we're going to be right back here.
Right,
doing the same
I think
exact
so too. And this particular ordinance, along with the other ordinance, I think we were moving quickly so that we could help Mr. Rice's person that he was working with. And I think that we did not do as good a job of thinking about this. So as I'm looking at it tonight, I would suggest that we bring back with a removal of this particular provision.
I would be comfortable
I
with
think
that.
that it puts you in a difficult position, and I don't think it forwards the policies that you really want to forward.
Thank you.
Do you need a motion on that, or is it just, no, you've got
Thank you.
instructions? Okay. Any more discussion?
Just to clarify, so if we were to remove what Vice Mayor just brought up, that then would say they could not potentially request for that reduction in fee anywhere.
That's correct.
Okay.
And as the city's going to be putting the sidewalks in at some future point, that would go toward that.
Okay, thank you.
And Member Stokel, oh, you did that one already. That was you. All right, guess nobody else is up there. Next item is old business. We have no old business. New business, resolution, city attorney.
No, sir, that would be me.
I'm sorry.
Currently, a municipality may impose a local business tax for the privilege of engaging in or managing a business, professional, or occupation within its jurisdiction. The amount of the tax, as well as the occupations and business on which the tax is imposed, is determined by the local government. Local business tax revenues are collected by the City of Titusville or used to assist in funding of services and critical to businesses, such as zoning and permitting, code enforcement, police, fire, and emergency services. Local governments may also use business tax receipts revenues to help fund vital services, such as economic development programs that present a direct benefit to the businesses through the marketing of local areas. Many municipalities, including the City of Titusville, use a business tax receipt as a general revenue funds and have pledged these revenues to secure debt. Senate Bill 330 and House Bill 487 propose to limit business tax receipts to $25 for a single taxpayer. Collections for business tax revenues within the City of Titusville were $280,048 in 2016. Staff estimates the adoption of this proposed bills would reduce the business tax receipts by approximately 81%, an estimated reduction of $225,424 in 2016 to our general fund. Reducing this vital source of general revenues would require the city to increase taxes, fees, and millage rates to cut service to compensate for this financial loss.
Okay, any discussion on it? All right, I will accept a motion to adopt resolution number 2-2017.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Mayor, we need a roll call vote on a resolution.
Oh, sorry, sir.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Behringer?
Yes.
Member Stokel?
Yes.
Member Diesel?
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Petitions and requests from the public present. Would anybody like to speak? You're the only one left.
Sorry I didn't catch the earlier one. Tom Fernstrom, 4875 Winchester Drive. I just wanted to say thank you to the city council, the employees. We got a pleasant surprise when we got our notices that our streets were going to be paved. And a couple of days later, there's a contractor in there, and he's scooping out the ditches and grading them and all that good stuff. And I stopped and I said, hey, who hired you to do this? He said, the city. I said, okay, Christmas came early. Well, we won the lottery. So I certainly appreciate it on behalf of my neighbors. And I told them, if your stormwater fees get bumped up, don't complain. Thank you.
Thank you for coming, sir.
Good night.
Yes, sir, and I'll pass that comment along to staff because we think we're going to be able to get over 9 miles this year, so we're really excited about that.
Mayor and council reports. You have my report written. Any council members want to have anything to report? No? Vice Mayor?
Thank you, sir. So a few meetings that were attended. One in the Space Coast League of Cities is as the upcoming legislature prepares to go to legislation, the bills that are coming forth, it just seems like there is an over-assertive or over-aggressive overreach into home rule. As an example, Representative Fine, who's actually in Brevard County, filed a bill that inherently restricts regulations to business as a municipality, meaning it takes the ability to regulate business out of the municipality's hands. Effectively, if that was to pass, currently it doesn't have a companion bill in the Senate, but House Bill 17 is way out of control. And it just seems that somewhere in between the county and between the state, it seems that this is becoming more commonplace. So in the next 2 months, I would just definitely suggest, and this is across from the League of Cities, something that we'll be moving forward with. Additionally, I had an opportunity to meet with a group of retirees of the city, and it was really beneficial. And the one thing that I would take back from that, one of the concerns that they had, there was a few concerns, but one I think that we're imminent to address is a $500 cap relative to health insurance. And I know that we're going to get into that later this year. If it's a possibility to have the conversation earlier in the year, I think what we could do is at least arrive at a discussion on it, which way we would care to go as far as the policy. And I think that what that would do is at least give our retirees from the city, if we can knock it out now and the conversation is going to come later, let's knock it out now, because that means that's an extra few months where they don't have to think about it, worry about it, and so on and so on. So that would be my hope, is relative to the cap that we currently have, threshold that I think is imminent to go over. And if we're going to go over, how are we going to handle that? And so I would like to hopefully review that with council. Additionally, I had an opportunity to attend one of the school board meetings relative to South Lake. And as that moves forward, I would, for council's consideration, I'd be happy to talk about it at the next meeting, is that if I'm a betting man, we're going to wind up getting a STEAM-based school at South Lake, and I think that's probably going to happen. But here's my critical concern, is that it still puts our high schoolers 8 years away. Because by the time those kids graduate 6th grade, if we add a program every year and that crop of kids comes through, well, that's 6 more years plus another 2 years to get it set up. We're almost a decade before the first graduates with those skills come out. And so my hope would be that the school board would be more proactive or more engaging than North Brevard, as I know that I think we will be sending some funds down south for capital expenditures. And if the deal is that we're going to send money down south because of the reduction of the districts where money should previously stay is going to go down to south to help them out, I think equally we should have an investment. If we're not going to have an investment into capital expenditures and buildings and schools, then we deserve programs. and programs that effectively prepare our kids now for jobs, not 10 years from now. So I just hope you would put that in your thoughts and have some time to go over that. And the last but not least, for council's consideration as well, is that as CRAs are becoming more under scrutiny, I believe that the area of, I think that there's a common theme that from South Street to Park Ave to US 1, and if you cut over from Park Avenue to Main Street and took that down to US 1, there's a big square in the middle of our city that I think is long overdue for redevelopment efforts. And as the city, as the scrutiny of a CRA is and using Brevard County's funds becomes more of a challenge, I would put forth at least for discussion, maybe at the next meeting, if another council member would support this, would be the creation of a taxing district or a redevelopment district for that area specifically. And that would be inclusive of from Park to Daly, or Park to South Street down to US 1, and then over at least to the railroad tracks, and then over from Main to Park and so on and so on. It would be something that would be different. It would be something that we haven't done in the past. So again, if you need some time to think about that, but I think that area is in need. And when I think about the Fab Lab, I get that, but it would be great. Also, it would be that we have bicyclists come through off that bridge, and you run into the Fab Lab. And I wonder about the task that's ahead of us, and how are we going to get back Main Street, and how are we going to get back that area? We got to have a plan, and so I think this just puts a little more emphasis on that. So, for your consideration.
On your request for a CRA in that area, take into account that CRAs work on TIF financing.
Correct.
If the property value doesn't go up, there's no money there, and there's no commercial or industrial in that particular area.
Well, on Main Street, I think because of the age of some of the buildings and the zoning that's over there may be some flexibility, and I think that we need a partner in that, and I think the zone could serve as that partner, and as a priority of funding, where the city could be a conduit, the zone may be able to help support it, and it would have to be a priority of that board as well. But if we don't make it a priority, I don't think they will.
Mr. City Manager, there were several requests there. Did you get all of them?
I've not been given any direction by council, sir.
Okay. Do we have to go back over them, or do you have them written down?
No, sir. I mean, you have a council member that's asked council to...
I thought he asked for it. Did you make any requests?
Well, for clarity, so one would be for clarity, first request, would the council entertain discussion on a policy with our health insurance at a $500 cap to review that at this time or in the upcoming next council meetings?
Anybody have any?
If you have interest in that, you would have to say yes.
So advisability to see.
Correct.
Yes.
I don't know what buttons I push, but I have interest in that.
Okay. You have direction on that?
The second would be the creation of a special district for the intent or purpose is for the redevelopment of the area described.
Feelings on that?
My only question, because my only question about that is I talked to Ms. Pisaka at one point, because that whole area, the zoning is really funky in it. Mm-hmm. You've got residential, you've got manufacturing, you've got everything in the world over there. So I think maybe the zoning also needs to be addressed. We had talked at one point about how it'd be nice to have bed and breakfast in that area along the bike path, but the zoning's not there. So I think that's something that maybe it's time to look at.
I would fully support a review of what that would look like and what the intent for the area is. So, but if that would be included relative to the geographical area, mm-hmm. I would be happy to do that.
What's the consensus?
advisability for looking at the current zoning
Revisability for the creation of the district.
and zoning?
Yeah, just as long, I'd just like to echo what the mayor said, just as long as everybody understands what a special taxing district is. And incremental tax funding in that area, you're not going to generate a lot of revenue to do anything.
Correct.
Our CRA here currently, the majority of our revenue was generated when the condos were built. We had many, many years of the CRA without much revenue at all. So it will cost us, just so council understands, probably $25,000 to $30,000 just to determine if the criteria will be met for a special taxing district. And we have to describe blight. Now, the 75% of our CBDG money goes into that area. And so there may be a potential conflict if we create it as a special taxing district. We won't be able to use that money in there. So there's a lot of things we need to consider for that area.
So I think the first questions are, is there a conflict? And then the second question is, what can we expect to generate in terms of funds? And maybe staff can give us some guidance on
It's
it.
really, it's hard to estimate your TIFs. It really is. We can take a look at the tax rolls, the current tax rolls, and see how they've done in the past few years to give an idea of what would be generated. Second, we'd have to create a plan. What is that plan? We'd have to pay somebody to create the plan. And then we'd have to create a board to execute the plan.
So basically, if we could figure out what kind of tax revenues we could expect to raise in that area, then, and how much it's going to cost to hire somebody to do that plan, then we have an idea of whether it's reasonable or not.
If I can make a
Does that make
suggestion, why
sense?
don't we start out with the basics? If there's a conflict with the CDBG, and try and come up with some number as to what would be produced by the TIF, and then we might see some direction there.
That sounds good.
And then
Okay.
just one of my concerns would be, before we start spending too much money on it, if, maybe setting aside some money in our current budget that we're getting ready to start planning, rather than investing, $30,000, $50,000, however much it's going to be into creating this, put that aside in our general fund for that specific area
Oh,
potentially.
ma'am, it would be in next budget year. It wouldn't be in this year.
Right, which is fine.
Okay, was there anything else you?
I did, and I did mention on the first go-around, but the other would be a potential review of council for the size of the boards that we have. And what I mean by that is that, so for instance, for city council, we have a 5-person board. For CRA, we have 5, CRA, we have 7. For planning and zoning, we have 7. I think as an example, I'll say planning and zoning. I think you can get it done with 5, and finding qualified people. If you can find 5 qualified, I think you can get the job done. And I think that extending the size of the boards can sometimes dilute the expertise and value that somebody may have. And so I was seeing if council might have an appetite for that.
I don't.
Okay. All right.
Okay, I see your light up. Was that for something?
Yep. I actually received a letter today from a citizen that he wanted me to share with you guys. It's from Peter Lord, if any of you guys know him, who started Park Avenue. So,
This is Senior?
what?
Peter Lord Senior?
Mm-hmm. Yep. To the mayor and members of the city council, it's dated today. Greetings. I have lived in Titusville for 51 years and love it. As far as I am concerned, those of you who have led this city have done a tremendous job. I am very grateful for all the good services you have provided. I can only remember one decision that I had a question about, if it was the right one. But I keep reminding myself that those of us who sit in the grandstands usually know very little of the facts. Recently, I had to have a couple of encounters with the water department. The lady who took care of me was not just professional, but also very gracious and thoughtful. This is to let you know that some of us out here appreciate your work, and I personally pray for you. Thanks very much, Peter Lord. So,
That's great.
yeah, I thought it was very nice.
I have Member Diesel. You have your...
Yeah, just a couple things, and I'd like to shed on that. Pastor David Cox, who went to school with me, was on Facebook recently and then messaged me afterwards that they weekly pray for this council. And I was almost intimidated by that, but I thought that was nice to hear. On a much different note, Vice Mayor, House Bill 17, would we do well to contact representatives ourselves? How do you feel about that?
Well, I think this session we're going to be contacting a lot of folks, but I think that it's fair to say that the red flag goes up when there's a House bill and a companion bill in the Senate.
Right, and I'm hearing that, and I just want to make sure that I don't mess anything up by contacting the people. Move forward.
I don't think that you can ever hurt by contacting a state representative to discuss home rule.
Okay, a couple things. As I'm noted, I met with Parks and Rec in our meeting, and I won't go into great detail with that, but most of our discussion was about the youth after-school programs, and I sense this board is very big on that. And as I stated to Big Brothers, Big Sisters, I'm not nearly concerned about who gets it done. We just need it done. So it's not a preference, I have you, but we've got to get it done, and I really feel we've got to not decide how many eggs are in each basket. We've got to put them together and get them moving forward. I was fortunate enough to, I must be very honest with you, run into Mike Cunningham of Code Enforcement yesterday when I finished meeting with city manager, and had some really good things to discuss with him that I hadn't gotten an opportunity to talk to him before. And he's very passionate about the empty buildings, and I know many of us have discussed that. And I think we'd do well to have him come and meet with us and give us just a brief overview of what they're doing, because he's very passionate about it. And actually, when I said that, he would really like to come through. So I just simply want to say it was nice meeting with him, and they're doing some great things.
Can we approach these one at a time so we don't have a pile at the end?
So I'm really not doing it, just saying stuff where I went, but go ahead.
Does council want to have Mr. Cunningham come in and speak to us?
I would like to have him come in, and it's not something, and I know it's something that I talked about an awful lot during the campaign. And again, I was heading out to the parking lot, and we probably talked a half hour, and he, noted he'd like to come before us. I thought, well, that would be great.
I know Mr. Cunningham well, and he's a very fine man and been doing the job for us for many years. So, would you arrange that, Mr. City Manager?
Sure.
All right.
I didn't even know I was saying stuff that was real important. That's good. I didn't. And then I'll just conclude with I wanted to get a comment out there that I thought that the Mardi Gras was more than amazing. And certainly I want to take my hat off or throw some beads to Giles Malone. It was outstanding. And embarrassed or not, I can't go on without talking about how Vice Mayor Behringer and his team, I think, served over 1,500 people in an hour and a half, something like that.
Wow.
About
1,000 people in an hour and a half. And I'd really get in trouble if I didn't say this. My wife thinks his red beans and rice are the greatest thing in the world. Ooh. So that being said, hats off to you guys. I don't know if you guys got to see Vice Mayor as his part was coming to an end, but he could barely walk. So he was doing that little weeble wobble thing to the trash can in the back. I thought, oh my gosh. I thought it was outstanding. It was maybe the largest crowd I've ever seen in one place in Titusville. So I just thought that was a good thing to talk about.
I would agree with you. That was a great event. It shows what advertising and promotion can do.
It was amazing.
And it would appear that having multiple venues in the same place played a big part of it as well. So it's very interesting.
And sir, can I throw out no tax dollars were used for that? Zero.
Outstanding.
That's a good point. All right. If there's nothing else, I'll go on to City Manager's report.
Yes, sir. I've got 3 action items for council this evening. In your agenda packet is a funding request from Space Walk of Fame in the amount of $10,000 to procure an additional pylon to host 16 engravings. This additional pylon is not part of the original shuttle monument. However, the demand for engravings has been stronger than anticipated. Staff is requesting council's direction on whether or not to include this funding request as part of the FY18 budget build process, which is currently underway.
I'll take a shot at that one first out of the box here. Spacewalk of Fame has done a fabulous thing in our community. Most of it was done by them, although there was money contributed over the years, both by the city and the county, but the work was generally all done by them, and all the groundwork and design and so forth. And then they give those things to the city. The city then owns them. So a request of $10,000 out of next year's budget doesn't seem like a lot to me to show them how much we appreciate their work. Does anybody have any other comments on that? I see nothing.
Simply to agree. I agree with you.
Very good. Anybody else?
We got consensus on that?
Okay.
Great. Next is a budget amendment for the purchase of additional laptops for TPD patrol vehicles. In your packets, a budget amendment for $17,700, which transfers funds from the TPD operating account to centralized city machinery and equipment account to purchase 8 Dell laptops for outfitting TPD patrol vehicles. Request council's authorization to transfer these funds to purchase these needed laptops. And I know they're expensive laptops, but they're hardened and they're specifically for fire and EMS.
Do a motion on that?
Just if I can get a consensus.
All right. You have my vote.
Yes. Okay.
Looks like you got it.
And last, we request council to authorize the mayor to sign a letter to FEMA delegating signature authority to the city manager for all required documentation needed to receive FEMA reimbursement from Matthews expenses. And the rationale on this is we're going to be doing a lot of paperwork, Mayor, and I don't want to have to try to run down all the necessary paperwork and run it through council to get your approval. So I respectfully request that you delegate that authority to me to sign on those particular documents.
I have no problem with that. I think you have consensus.
A couple of information items, and I normally don't talk on these very often, but we did have a series of meetings at council's request to address aggressive panhandling, to have an ordinance or not. We had good participation from the community, and the group learned a lot about information sharing amongst themselves, as well as what Titusville Police Department needs the citizens to do when they see something that's not right, to call. And I think that we've got some things in place. The working group agreed that we don't believe there's a necessity to create an ordinance at this time, but they agreed that they will continue to share information among themselves. And should the need arise in the future to reconvene that group as to do formal meetings for additional discussion, they're more than willing to do that. So I think it was a very good working group and great information sharing. So I just wanted to bring that up to you along with the other information items. If you have any questions of these items, I'm available to answer. And we've got a couple of special dates coming up for events for you. And that completes my report.
All right. Mr. City Attorney, do you have anything to add?
No, I just wanted to advise you, beginning the first week in March, we'll be having our weekly phone calls with the League of Cities regarding the bills that will be coming forward. I'll keep you updated at your meetings as to proposed bills, and as asked earlier, we'll decide also when we want to contact the legislators and what type of position we want to take so we can address some of those bills that are coming out.
All right. Thank you. Anything else to add by anybody? Not hearing anything, I'll call this meeting adjourned.